hard stance because they have given us the original proposals without any meaningful concessions. We therefore have a stalemate, and it leaves us no alternative but to continue with the disciplinary process that we have already initiated. However, having said that, we are still open to talks, meaningful talks. But the most important thing is that these talks need to be held under the condition that they return to work. Because, as we have said before, this is an illegal strike. It is an unlawful strike because the courts have declared it unlawful.
In the meantime, passengers continue to be stranded even as CEO Alan Kilavuka insists that they are ready to negotiate with the pilots but urge the pilots to first resume work.
Pilots first are Kenya Airways employees before they are CALPA members. And again, I would like just to urge them to see reason and to come back to work. In fact, going to strike does not help. You know why? Because I've just said we are losing 300 million per day. You know, if this continues this way, it will be difficult for us to even meet our salaries this month. So it is in their interest. Some of the demands they are placing before us require financials.
Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen and his Labour colleague Florence Bori have urged the pilots to resume work and meet at the negotiating table. Now, President William Ruto is in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt for the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference COP27. Ruto is leading the Kenyan delegation to Egypt and will also be the leader of African continent heads of state in the summit, which brings together more than 130 heads of state from around the globe. Ruto will deliver two statements, one for Kenya and another for Africa, to over 40,000 delegates. Earlier at the United Nations headquarters in New York, Ruto insisted on the need to protect the environment and the nations must do everything possible to pledge funds that will go into saving the environment.
Our pastoralist communities have experienced scarcity of pasture due to prolonged drought, the worst in 40 years, and 3 years of absolute rain failure. As a result, we have lost 2.5 million heads of livestock owing to this very severe drought. Rising food prices have made an already bad situation worse. Elsewhere, communities in rural and urban areas across the country are equally struggling under the weight of high food prices and shortage of water. Without a doubt, climate change is complicating our roadmap towards socio-economic transformation and achievement of sustainable development goals.
The 27th Conference of Parties on Climate Change was officially opened by the COP27 President and Egypt's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Sameh Shoukry, at the Blue Zone in the green city of Sharm el-Sheikh. We continue to follow up on what is happening in Egypt, and we'll be bringing you the very latest. Remember that President Ruto will be addressing the gathering later today. The rescue operations from a precision air flight that plunged into Lake Victoria, Tanzania, continue. According to the airline, the flight that crashed landed while approaching Bukoba Airport had 39 passengers on board, including 38 adults and 1 infant. In a statement, Precision Air said passengers of flight number PW498 were flying from Dar es Salaam to Bukoba.
Tumefungua kituo chetu kwa ajili ya wale abiria ambao watakuwa wameathirika, kwa sababu tunaendelea kufuatilia uokoaji, na kituo chetu kwa ajili ya tunaita family assistance kwa hapa Dar es Salaam ili kupata habari mbalimbali kiko katika hoteli ya Blue Sapphire pale Vingunguti. Kwa hiyo kama kuna familia yoyote ambao wanataka kupata update yoyote, wakifika pale watapewa hizo taarifa. Na kwa Bukoba iko katika hoteli ya ELCT. Kwa hiyo wakifika pale nao zile familia zote zitapata taarifa.
President Samia Suluhu Hassan led Tanzanians in sending condolences to the families affected following the accident, while asking them to remain calm. Our thoughts and prayers to those who lost their families even as rescue operations continue. Now, Evans Chebet completed a brilliant Kenyan clean sweep of the world's major marathons after a superb victory in the New York Marathon, as compared Sharon Lokedi took the women's crown in a fast race over the distance. Chebet also won Boston Marathon in April, patiently waited for Brazilian frontrunner Daniel Nasebo to implode before hitting the race. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
Good morning this Monday, and what do Nairobi streets have an offer for us today? Looks like a little bit of traffic is starting to build up on the thicker superhighway coming into the city. It doesn't look too terrible, at least not for now. It's just a few minutes after 6 o'clock on this bright 7th of November. Let's see what's coming into the city, and that looks okay for now. Coming off Mombasa Road, shouldn't have too much of an issue either. Coming out of Westlands, that's also flowing free and smoothly, at least for now. Looks like it's going to be a busy Monday, however. We're looking at some traffic building up on Jogo Road. It's getting out towards that Landys Road, rather out towards Landys Road, yes, and then through towards Kamkunji. Is really busy at this point. James Gishuru also looks like it'll give up something as well. The Pangani underpass is already packed. Bumper to bumper is what we're looking at now. A few minutes after 7, we'll see what happens then. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there and let's keep things moving this Monday.
Haya, ndu.
Yeah.
Haya,
Inakwaga hivyo.
Just like that.
Imagine.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to be seen and to see you too.
Welcome back to Kenya.
Thank you very much.
Hapa nchi yetu ya Kenya. Tuko na amani, hakuna matata.
Okay. Okay.
Kabisa. Siti.
Omo. I almost entered last chance.
Last chance of what?
Of not coming back.
Because
People decided they're not flying again.
Allah. Allah.
Telling you. You know what last chance is?
So you boarded the last flight out.
Do you know what last chance?
Because there's a pilot who needed to come and strike from home.
On Saturday.
From home.
I'm telling you. What?
I can imagine those ones who are on strike and they were not in the country.
Wait for us, we're coming.
Tujipange, so kila mtu, all of us will be back in the country. Because, I mean, if you're on strike and you're outside the country, then what?
Yeah, how are you coming
Kiki is not paying for you.
Kwa nini? Then you spend money. Why? Ungekuja free.
Why?
Why?
Ingia tu ile ndege yako ulete Nairobi.
Kuja upack.
Rebate.
Kuja upack kwa nini alafu.
Where? So,
Hey.
So, how did that drama unfold?
As in Friday would have been Saturday. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
It's
Explain
not
nicely.
Saturday the boys said they're not doing again.
Yes.
The pilot said they're not doing.
Yes.
I came on Friday. Had my trip been Saturday as it was initially planned, I would have been stuck.
What made you change?
My sisters decided, okay, you know what? We need to finish. And then one of my sisters had to be back quickly.
So it was just sheer luck.
Like this.
It
and
wasn't
said,
strategic at
no.
let's look at the weather, let's look at the flights, blah, blah, blah. No. It was...
But first, I mean, honestly...
So we said, okay, if we're all going, if one of us is going, what are the rest of us? Let's all go and just see if we can change.
Sure.
Like joke.
So luck cannot be strategic.
This lady called Luck.
Where?
Maybe she played a hand I do not know. But clearly. Yes, so.
Where? Bahati yako.
Telling you.
Kama mtende.
Thank God.
Where?
You know things we do what?
Give thanks.
Yes.
And this is one of those opportunities.
Where?
Give thanks. 60, how was your weekend?
Quiet. My weekends are boring, folks. You know, that's, the...
Quiet doesn't equate to boring.
It is boring.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Yeah,
It's the definition
yeah, I
of
was
boring.
trying to be, okay, no, just because it's quiet.
No,
No,
it's boring.
It's boring. Okay,
You see,
sorry.
the problem isn't the boredom. The problem is the assumption that boredom is bad.
No, boredom is not
boredom is
necessarily-
good.
Boredom can be good.
Yes. So if you take it from that perspective,
So bored good.
I was bored good. Yeah, see, a man who understands things. I was bored good. As opposed to those who are bored bad.
Bored a good one. Okay. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
How are you doing,
I'm
Eric?
fine, thank you.
Yeah?
Yes. Yes. I also had a boring weekend.
Habba. That's why I came back and went for swimming gala. I'm telling you, my life was just...
You couldn't believe.
Your life did what?
Came back and I went for swimming gala.
She came back and she was reminded that she's a mother.
Eh.
Taking holiday from Kwenda. Anyway, let me tell you what we're going to be discussing today. So this whole KQ strike, right? There are very many angles to it, and we want to speak to the horse. From the horse's mouth, the Kenya Airways Group CEO and Managing Director, Alan Kilavuka, will join us at 7 a.m. to tell us, so how far? What's the issue? The pilots are saying that you need to go home. Why can't you just go home and let people fly?
Why do they want Mr. Allen to go home?
Because they feel that he's become a power unto himself. His impunity.
How exactly has he done that?
Impunity. There's a CBA he's not implementing. There's a staff provident fund he is not putting money into it. There are people who, working diligently and hard-working people. They are put on, what's it called? Disciplinary.
Performance.
Do these pilots live in this country?
Yes, no.
Yeah.
And the question they're asking,
They are not getting the money that they ought to be getting.
who is getting the money they're supposed to be getting?
Alan Kilavuka, they say.
Is that really true?
According to them.
According to them.
Yeah. They say he's getting paid, but we are not.
And our own is according to agreement. We sat down and we negotiated and we deliberated over these things, and they are not paying us. But then somebody else is being paid. It cannot happen.
Akwende
And
nyumbani.
how do they know he's being paid?
Allah.
What? I thought they were pilots. Or they also work in the accounts department. I mean, come on, man.
Trying to say a pilot cannot crunch the numbers?
No, it's not a question of crunching the
He's
numbers.
hardly ever here.
Yes,
How
he's
would he
in the
know?
air.
Yes.
Like, okay.
He's in the
What?
air.
Or is it the CEO salary, something that
Anyway,
is open
Alan
to
will be
everybody?
here.
Yeah?
Alan will be here, and we'll ask him to show us his payslip. Then that's what we want. Let a payslip, yeah, October. Anyway, so that's 7 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, we will have a conversation with the former member of parliament, Omingo Magara. He was a former MP for South Mugirango and a former chair at the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. He will be here. Let's talk about democracy and integrity in political parties. Yeah. So what is happening to all these parties? We'll have another conversation about political parties at 9 a.m., this time with the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance, Erickson Odhiambo, the place for the non-parliamentary political parties in political discourse. Yes? Okay. Plus, these are the guys of Punguza Mzigo. Do they want to revive Punguza Mzigo, or do they think the Mzigo is now?
Punguza what?
Kuna kiangazi after all. So, tell us about COVID.
All right, so let's look at COVID numbers.
Andrew Franklin will be very happy.
Yeah?
Yeah. Tell us.
637,767,096 is all we're looking at in terms of numbers around the world. Yes, we have seen an increase. Looking at the Western Hemisphere, we're looking at the cold weather patterns coming in heavy. And so that will definitely increase your COVID numbers. We're seeing the same thing in Kenya. And look, we can't run away from the fact that the rains have come. In some parts of the country, at least, that has dipped temperatures a little bit. And we already know that cooler temperatures are an indicator of the spread of COVID. It will happen. We have also seen that quite a number of people have been down with that thing, Mavagonius, cold, flu, etc. Again, indicative of, because of lower temperatures, then we will see things like what the Ministry of Health is telling us of 119 new cases from a sample size of 921. That's a big number from the sample size, so take that into consideration. So essentially saying from this sample size, 1 in every 9 people was tested positive. So that gives you 12.9% in terms of a positivity rate. We still have 0 recorded deaths from COVID. So we are still looking at the majority of this large number of COVID cases as asymptomatic. 97 of them are in Nairobi, and they're spread across then Lamu, Mombasa, Kiambu, Migori, Nakuru, Kwale, and Murang'a. What is the reasoning? Just that. We've seen a dip in temperatures. Every time we see that, we will see that there's a rise. It's not peculiar or unique to Kenya. It happens around the world. China's posting a 6-month high in infections despite COVID strategy. The strategy remains zero COVID, but this is the highest number of COVID cases that they've seen in 6 months. The world's most populous country has found it difficult to stick to its hardline zero COVID policy, but it's doing that. It's reported its highest number of new infections in 6 months, 4,420 new locally transmitted COVID infections on Saturday alone, according to the Commission, and the most since May, from 3,659 on one day. The numbers are still extremely low, according to global standards, but we know that there's a zero COVID policy here, so these are big numbers. The government of China has reiterated its position of zero COVID, and a dynamic clearing is what they're calling to these cases.
18 after 6. Let's take this quick break. Take a look at the weather forecast. Are you online? Let us know where you're tuned in from. We will do the thing.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yolanda Mulo and DJ Absolute. When the gang is together, you know it's
sugar and spice.
Great vibes, conversations, a lot of humor. I like to say we don't give an F, we give 3 Fs.
You and I are in this relationship, so it is me to tell you who we are.
When you ask a chick, how many guys have you been with? She's like, including you. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock. If I were you, I'd tune in to SpiceFM 94.4.
I want you on my team.
So does everybody else.
Yeah.
17 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 16. It's clear at 14 in Nakuru, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 23 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 17. It's 14 and clear in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 13. We're looking at a rainy morning in Mombasa at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 24, and we'll see highs of 30. In a rainy Malindi in some parts at 25. It's 20 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 19, and 20 and clear as well in Kakamega. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 15. Rain showers in Kampala, we'll see 20 at the moment, highs of 25 and lows of 17, while Dar es Salaam is raining at 24, it goes to highs of 31 and back down to lows of 24. It's mostly cloudy in Johannesburg at 15, highs of 20 and lows of 14, and cloudy conditions at 26 in Lagos, highs of 32. We'll see highs of 32 as well in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 22. Looking out into Beijing, Monday afternoon, it's 17 and sunny, highs of 18, and they're going to see lows of 0 today as those winter weather patterns sink in. It's 13 and mostly cloudy in Paris, highs of 16 and lows of 11, and partly cloudy conditions in an almost rainy London at 12. We'll go to highs of 15. For now, partly cloudy conditions at 19 in New York, still Sunday night. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 23 and lows of 19.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Dennis Sige is tuned in this morning. Quite a number of people have woken up, and Asante Sana, welcome to a brand new week. Great things ahead. Indeed, Gishuru, good morning to you. Ogero Edinson is tuned in, and DJ J is tuned in from Baringo. Timothy Igamba Wapasha is tuned in as well from Ruiru Town, and Deno's here as well. Joroge says he's tuned in from Doha, and Gatundu North is where Wamboi Moirori is. Bay Wamacha, we see you every day. Good morning to you, Ashley. Liz Kamau's tuning from Kikuyu, and Wycliffe, you're tuning from very many places, but at the end of the day, it's Uganda. So good morning to you, and Karibu Sana. Benson Momo says, good morning, Eric Ndu and Muga. Tuko Pamoja, indeed. Tell Ndu we miss her. I'm here now. Don't worry. Ondicho, good morning. Dennis, Kapenguria is where you're tuning from this morning. And Laurent says the hustlers are well represented. Okay. He says this is the show.
All of them?
All of them.
Okay.
By him. And this is the show that gives us hope that with intelligent discourse, things take meaningful course. Well, all right then. Tune in from Nakuru City, Kuresoi North, Kiptororo area. But now at Kericho. You people should stay in one place now this morning. So where you are. Maureen Jepkemboy is tuning this morning from Ngata Rongai. And Tobias is tuning from Kamkuiwa. Wow. Kimilili is where Amos is this morning. That Tari's tuned in from Kisii County. Pauline, I missed you too. Karibu, Asante, thank you for joining us this morning. Martin Odwar is tuned in as well. Beatrice, we see you. So many people online this morning. Jane Duta, thank you very much. Always a pleasure every morning. Collins as well. Kiambeni, Waterman, Ivewa Francis. Can't get through to all of you, but we see you and thank you so much for joining us this morning. Karibu sana.
Karibu. Is Andrew Franklin online? You say.
Andrew is online. Welcome back. Looking forward to COVID-19 update. Well, there you have it. Last week, positivity rates ran above 13%. Good morning from Lavington. Yes, they did. We've seen those numbers. We keep an eye on things.
Indeed. Welcome, everybody. City. Last week, we were in Egypt.
Yes.
Today, the world is in Egypt. Where are you?
Well, we ushered them into Egypt. Yes. Today, we're in Mauritania.
Mauritania?
Please tell us the capital of Mauritania.
And the president is
It's Nouakchott.
Nouakchott.
Yes. Former French colony. Okay.
Where is Mauritania?
Okay. Africa.
Africa, yes.
All right, map, eh?
Right.
Okay, so you know where Egypt is?
Yes.
Suez Canal, everything.
Yes.
Now you've moved towards the left.
Libya.
Down, Kidogo to.
Kidogo
next
chini.
to Chad.
Chad.
Next, Mauritania.
Yes. So it's somewhere there in the middle.
Borders Chad on this side, borders Egypt on this side.
Yes.
And Sudan?
Sudan is lower
Apuchini.
down. You know, Sudan is below. Chad is Sudan is at the side.
Chad borders Sudan.
Can you see how
And
my fingers are
Egypt.
pointing?
The way his fingers are going, that's exactly where it is.
So if Chad borders Sudan and borders Egypt, and Mauritania borders Chad and borders Egypt, does it not
border
border
each other.
Sudan? Does Mauritania border Egypt?
Let me ask you
and
this
Sudan?
question, Eric. I know the question you ask is a valid one. How many other countries do you want us to border? I mean, just so that we can include them all in the
All of those ones
now.
there,
All right,
around
yes.
there.
Okay, we bequeath them the borders.
Eh?
Okay, so
And
now-
Libya and everybody
Libya.
else.
No, Libya is up.
Eh?
Up.
So Libya is up there.
Juu kidogo.
Eh.
Then there are some of these very small towns which are the size of principalities, which border now the coast.
And then there's Niger,
Niger is huge.
bordering Chad.
Yes, Niger is big.
Where is this Mauritania?
Hapana, nyinyi
Hebu angalia kwa map.
Muko Europe. You see? Mauritania is is northwest Africa. It borders Mali, Western Sahara,
It's coastal.
Senegal, and it's on the coast.
It's a coastal country.
And then what happened after that?
That country that you're talking about, that one, it can be which one? Which one can we give
Can
you?
be
It
Niger.
can be. Actually
Chad.
can be nothing.
Yeah.
It's Chad.
It's
There's
Chad.
no,
It's
there's,
Chad.
Chad does not border Egypt.
Chad borders Libya and Sudan. Egypt borders Libya and Sudan. Okay.
Mauritania now is on
Mauritania is
left
northwestern
kidogo. Yes, bordering those
Africa.
small countries. Which
So Mauritania is bordered by Mali to the west. Sorry, to the east. Bordered by Mali to the east,
Western
Senegal
Sahara.
to the west, and Western Sahara to the northwest. So it's and then it's got the coast there.
And the capital is coastal. It's called what?
Nouakchott.
What?
Chot.
There you go. Higher, the proverb.
right. The donkey which goes to grow horns returns with the ears cut off.
The donkey?
Years or ears?
Ears, not ears. Ears, muscio. The donkey which goes
It could
to
be
grow
ears, you know. Okay, sorry.
The donkey that?
goes to grow horns returns with the ears cut off.
It could also be years. Think about it.
Yeah, I'm not thinking. I'm just following the proverb. The
Yes.
donkey.
Donkey's ears here. Please focus. Doesn't refer to the age of the donkey, okay? It refers to part of its anatomy. Ears. Hey,
Remember the Japanese ambassador who was born in the
Year of the cow.
you know,
You were born where?
you're the cow.
How big is the ear?
How big are those cows in the place you come from?
How big are the cows in Japan?
Yeah. So you two citizens of the planet, eh? We now know where Mauritania is.
Yes.
So we know where this proverb has come from.
It's been a grand morning.
Yes.
Okay.
Nezazawa. Let's look at the front pages of the papers. What's on the front page of the Standard?
All right. Truth on SGR billions. Is it really the truth? As the government pledges to extend the Standard Gauge Railway to Kisumu and eventually Malaba, the controversy around the initial work seemed to be here to stay. A peek through the contract between Kenya and China to construct the railway shows the country could have sold its soul. Cue music. Also, as TT rips his paper, COP27, the world meets in Egypt amid warning of climate disaster.
Star.
On the front page of The Nation, counties paid 35 billion shillings to ghost workers. Casper, boo, ghost workers, 35 billion. Phony salary accounts haunt governors, and we're looking at a couple of former governors there. Money that went through the counties but did not go to individuals. Shall I give you those numbers? Vihiga County, 130,770,960 over the last 5 years.
This immediate past 5 years or the first 5 years of the first?
Okay, so I'll give you the story, but I just want to give you the numbers, right?
Okay.
So 130 million in Vihiga County. How many ghost workers? 426. Governor Wilbur Otichilo. Mombasa, 3 billion shillings. 1,000 ghost workers. Governor Hassan Joho. Migori County, 614,738,580. 314 ghost workers. Governor Okoth Obado. Are you sitting down? Nandi County, 12 billion shillings. 300 ghost workers.
What?
Governor, yes, Cleophas Lagat. Nairobi, 6, so it was the former, okay? The previous administration.
12 billion.
Nairobi County, 6 billion. 2,260 ghost workers under Governor who? Evans Kidero. 13.9 billion shillings in Nyamira County. 736 ghost workers. Governor John Nyagarama.
The late.
We will look at the details of that story. And I'll tell you those questions that you're asking.
Okay. You'll tell us shortly. Let's take a quick break. Yes?
Yeah.
And tell you about the room. The room. Okay. So the room is this place where you get best vetted, qualified talent. And this is tech talent. And you know the world is looking for tech talent. Despite the fact that, yes, Elon Musk is firing people, Facebook is intending to fire more people and all these things, but there's still a shortage of tech talent globally. And the room has that tech talent that is being sought globally. So if you are looking for the best tech talent in the country, just go to theroom.com and you'll get them there. 6:30.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The adults in the room.
I've seen some marriages, relationships, cohabitings struggle because there was no independence of the relationship.
It needs a certain level of intelligence. You need to reach a place where you know yourself. And again, you're not feeding off society.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune into Adults in the Room every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The Adults in the Room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 SpiceFM,
All right, 6:30
Nairobi.
on the nose, and we're looking at traffic that has built up significantly on the Thika Superhighway, coming in through the Pangani underpass out towards Muranga Road, which for now doesn't look too bad, but it's likely to climb up in a short while. It's also coming off heavy off Kiambu Road. In and outbound traffic is really heavy at this point. Juja Road is going to see something this morning, that's for sure. Connecting with what's coming off of Outer Ring, it's likely to also clog up a bit here and there. Waiaki Way starting to look busy. James Gishuru, not too bad for now. Coming off of out of Kilesha out through towards Westlands, we're seeing that Ring Road Westlands is also picking up quite some. Mombasa Road doesn't look too bad. You're going to see pockets of traffic here and there, but you should be all right. We're looking at that Imara Drift, and we'll see some traffic as you're getting out towards General Motors, but then past General Motors, you should be all right. Getting out towards Outer Ring and then past onto the Eastern Bypass, there's some traffic. It hasn't yet started. This is Slim Pickings for a Monday morning. We'll see what happens in half an hour or so. Talk to us about what's going on where you are, and let's keep things moving this morning. SpiceFM, KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM. Nairobi.
Tell us then about the numbers.
All right, ghost staff haunt counties 9 years after devolution. All right, and you're wondering where this is all coming from. Weary taxpayers complain about poor services in counties, hospitals without drugs, and patients sharing beds. These are pet peeves. Audit reports show that more than 35 billion shillings has been looted over the years through ghost workers as the theft continues. The internal staff and payroll audits have become a routine undertaking by every new county administration that usually reveals how billions of shillings are being looted through non-existent staff. However, the new sheriffs in town hardly seal the loopholes. Subsequent probes have revealed growing theft blamed for the runaway rage bill that has seen counties violate the statutory ceiling on spending on salaries. On September 30th, 2016, then Migori Governor Okoth Obado publicly revealed findings of an internal staff and payroll audit that exposed ghost workers. Obado said the staff head count done between August 4th and 5th, 2016, had identified 46 ghost workers whom the county had been paying 2.7 million shillings every month. The admission meant that Migori County may have lost 110.7 million to ghost workers in the 41 months that Obado was in office. However, he said, my government will ensure money irregularly paid out is recovered. Famous last words. The governor said. 2 months later, Auditor General Edward Oko at the time released his report on Migori for the 2014-2015 financial year, and the document showed that the county may have lost 355 million by paying non-existent staff. For the 2013-2014 financial year, Obado's first in charge, the Auditor General, had reported a loss of 116,000 each month to 29 ghost workers. Fast forward to July 2018, and Mr. Obado was nearly 1 year into his second term. He ordered yet another audit, doing the same thing that he had done before. So it goes through to show how those numbers then don't make sense. Looking into other counties, in May 2021, he had barely 1 year left. His administration, through County Public Service Board Chair Jared Kopio, admitted that Migori was still struggling to exercise ghost workers and that another staff and payroll audit was on the cards. Looking at former Senator Ochilo Ayako, and had taken over and made a similar vow, joining a growing list of county chiefs who are suffering the same pandemic. At least 25 governors sworn in after the August 9th, 2022 elections have sung the same chorus to audit staff and exercise ghost workers illegitimately drawing salaries from counties. Past records show that taxpayers could be parting with as much as 500 million shillings every month to non-existent staff, despite continuous promises by county bosses to streamline their payrolls. So we're looking at a trajectory of the same thing. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and now new governors are saying the first thing we will do is get rid of ghost workers.
Of the other people's ghost workers and install their own.
And install their own ghost workers. So it goes across board. Vihiga County, we're looking at losing 22.1 million every month. We are looking at Machakos. Governor Wavinya Ndeti last week revealed that there are at least 37 ghost workers amid thousands of cases involving plunder. A recent Auditor General report on Machakos County found that 229 officers received dubious salaries arrears twice, while a further 237 were paid both basic and special salaries without supporting documents. The county failed to deduct tax from 1,226 workers' salaries. Interestingly, the county's employee records have been audited and edited multiple times by at least 10 members of staff who are not part of the HR department. The report also found 2,334 cases of both special and house allowances being paid in the same month without supporting documents. It goes further. Muranga Governor Irungu Kangata told the nation that his task force was in the final stages of this payroll audit and that findings would be made public next week, Monday. Simbarati found 861 ghost workers, all drawing salaries. Bungoma, Ken Lusaka has found the county had employed at least 18 ghosts as village administrators. Susan Kihika in Nakuru, Gideon Mungaro in Kilifi, Andrew Mwadime, Taita Taveta. It goes on and on. They're all in the process of auditing their staff, payrolls, and doing headcounts to weed out ghost workers. The question is, will they be weeded out? Or come 5 years from now, we will be hearing the same story. If you're looking at the numbers, 2001 an audit was done in Vihiga, and the numbers that we're looking at now were 130 million, 3 billion in Mombasa, 450 million in Migori, another 162 million in Migori, 12 billion in Nandi, 6 billion in Nairobi, 13 billion in Nyamira. Ghost workers.
It's clear that this is one way how money gets pilfered from the counties. Okay? Now, of course, one cannot imagine that the governors are completely unaware of this thing happening. If a governor conducted an audit and found that this is happening and they did not put in tighter measures to control it, then it tells you that they realized, this is one clear way in which we can make money.
Indeed.
Instead of just going into those big projects where they'll come back and find out, you're connected. So this is one clear way. Now, the thing is, are you saying that it's impossible to really track and see who's receiving money? If somebody has been paid and procedurally, it's clear that you have received money and procedure. You should not have received this money. You're getting a house allowance and you're not entitled to a house allowance. It's surcharging.
And there are two things very clear. You were able to find it out. So you are aware of who this individual was. You are also quite aware of the individual who made the payment. You have the documentation. You have the proof of payment. Why is it so difficult to then get rid of that? And at least set a deterrent in place from allowing people to do this in the future.
Yeah.
So, we can't say it's impossible. I think the question is there willingness to get rid of them? Because clearly this lucrative loophole has been found for which people can eat.
It's a way for people to make money, and everybody knows this.
By the way, this story is not new at all.
Nope.
Not at all.
It's as old as time itself. Whether it's within the national government, whether it was within the local authorities, one constantly heard of these stories of ghost workers, and the focus seems to be, it's like the ghost workers are a problem. The ghost workers are not a problem, really. Neither are the governors, not really. This need we seem to have to ensure that whatever comes before us as public funds, that every which way must be found. Forget this lazy way of ghost workers. This is a lazy way of stealing. You must find ways of pilfering as much as you possibly can, which begs the question, is there any county in this country that doesn't have ghost workers?
Kuna. Now you can imagine these are counties. The national government, every state department must have a couple of ghost workers.
Then when they talk
Public
about...
service must be an absolute mess.
Yes, and when they talk about reducing the workforce, restructuring, reduce the costs, people who are actually working are gotten rid of, the ghost workers remain.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the pattern, if you ask me. Because with all these things we keep talking about, somehow the ghost workers never seem to go anywhere. So the problem isn't the ghost workers. The problem is, how it is that people have determined that this is the one way, as Eric put it, of ensuring that you pilfer public coffers.
It is known, it is well known, it shall not be stopped.
No, it seems to be
want
encouraged. I mean, this is window dressing. Every governor who's come in now is telling us how they're doing audit. Everyone is doing an audit. And then, after the audit?
They're looking for their own loopholes.
They'll come and tell you there are 400 ghost workers and we found them.
And then?
That's it.
They are looking for their own loopholes.
Yes.
On how to take advantage of this. Higher. Yesterday, not yesterday. This weekend, the new CS for Transport, Kipchumba Murkomen, has been busy. busy. So first of all, Kenya Airways pilots decide to do the thing and lay down their tools. And of course, the minister wades right into it and says, no, we've got to resolve these issues. So the minister calls in a meeting between the Pilots Association, the management of Kenya Airways, Ministry of Labour, and they sit down and they start conversations. And then he goes ahead now to start and releasing press releases detailing what's happening. Well, we've had a meeting. We're asking the pilots to go back to work. We're going to resolve this issue. We will deal with it, this and the other. So this is what they have been doing all along. We're waiting for more updates from him, of course. Then yesterday he decides, that thing that I promised I'm going to do? This is release the SGR contract. He had said earlier in the week that he was still looking for them. So yesterday, he goes onto Twitter and says, I have released these 3 contracts, SGR-related contracts. I have sent them to the leaders of the majority in the National Assembly and the Senate, and I've also released to the media. And now is what's covered in the Standard and the Nation as well, and all the papers, truth on SGR billions. As the government pledges to extend the standard gauge railway to Kisumu and eventually Malaba, the controversy around the initial works seems to be here to stay. A peek through the contract between Kenya and China to construct the railway shows the country could have sold its soul. So there were 3 contracts that were released by the Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen yesterday. And the 3 of them are related to the deal between the government of Kenya and the lender. And this is Exim Bank. Kipchumba, I'm looking for his name. Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH, MP. The number 1 contract was the government, the Export-Import Bank of China, that is Exim Bank, and the government of the Republic of Kenya, and it's a buyer credit loan agreement for the Kenya Mombasa Standard Gauge Railway. That is contract number 1. Contract number 2, preferential buyer credit loan agreement on the Kenya Mombasa Railway SGR between the government of the Republic of Kenya and Exim Bank. Number 2. Number 3, Exim Bank and the government of Kenya. This is the buyer credit loan agreement again. So the contracts that he released relate to Exim lending money to
Kenya,
the government of Kenya. Now, how about the contract that is then signed between the government of Kenya and the contractor?
That one is not there.
Or the management of these things. So there are several other documents that have been asked. So where are these documents and how much have you basically released to the public? But looking at the contracts that have been released so far, the Standard has looked at the entire... Well, there's a guy called Kamau Mudhoni at the Standard. He's a good writer. He gives a chronology and also just weaves in the social side and the human interest side into this story. What was happening, Dovamuli, the then PS for Transport, sitting there and signing a contract and all this and the other. So it looks at the details. The payment schedule was rigid for a project of such magnitude, dependent on many variables. The penalties for default or delay are quite clear. If the contractor does not receive payment in accordance with subclause 14.7, that's the timing of payments, the contractor shall be entitled to receive financing charges compounded monthly in the amount unpaid during the period of delay. Unless otherwise stated in the particular conditions, these financing charges shall be calculated at the annual rate of 3 percentage points above the discount rate of the central bank in the country or the currency of payment, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of detail that's, just flying around. It'll take a while for people to start percolating and understanding, okay, so these contracts that have been released, are they giving us what information Kenyans wanted to hear. Kenyans want to know what is the port of Mombasa collateral. Number one, if we don't pay, do they take our port? Do they take our airport?
Take it where?
Do they take our railway?
How much was it? Really?
How much exactly in total? Who was paid? Are there intermediaries? Are there other people in between? All those are the details that people want to know.
So all these plenty papers that people were shouting up and down yesterday. There's nothing you were told yesterday, really.
But then again, we were told that when again was this loan agreement signed?
It started in around 2012. There was a previous one in 2011. There was a 2012 one.
Yes, so
blah, blah, blah.
which contract was released here? Thank you very much. You've understood where I'm going with this one. Which contract are we speaking of here?
The 3 contracts that were released yesterday.
All 3 of them, huh? All right. And all of them say the same thing, huh?
No, they're different.
Okay.
They're different.
What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that releasing a contract and telling us this is what actually happened and it being what really happened are not necessarily the same thing.
These are 2014 contracts.
My friend, even if they're 2018 contracts, it is still okay. Because I will wait for this to be tabled in Parliament. I will wait for the parliamentarians to discuss it. I will wait for the questions to be asked. Meanwhile, since I am also privy to it, I can read it. I will also read it in great detail. Yes, and then I'll be able to discuss it. Yes, with greater clarity.
Let's wait and see what actually comes out, because there's a lot of number crunching here and legalese that to be broken down and people to speak of. Yeah?
Indeed.
Do you have this Business Daily today?
I do.
Aha. Headline.
Kenya scores big in bid to raise taxes on global firms.
Kenya what?
Scores big. Kenya is let me start again. Once upon a time, Kenya has reported a major breakthrough in ongoing talks to secure a favorable revenue sharing deal with a club of rich countries over the contentious global maximum tax rate on multinationals ahead of January the 1st, 2024 enforcement date. The top official of the Kenya Revenue Authority told the Business Daily that there had been a significant development in the talks with Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, on rules to tax profits of the world's largest global firms, but did not disclose specifics of the deal they had hammered 2 months to the deadline. Okay.
So now?
So, what we scored big?
According to this particular article, we scored big. Yeah, but I'm looking for the big. Have you heard the big?
No, please, I was just
continue.
waiting.
All right, let me look at page 2. Maybe the big is on page 2. Okay. Right. We have achieved a lot with the discussions we are having with the OECD and even key member states, which include the US. A lot has changed, and that discussion is still ongoing. The person who's being quoted is Maurice Oray, KRA's Deputy Commissioner for Corporate Policy, told the Business Daily. The deal seeks to introduce a global minimum corporate tax of 15% to end what has been dubbed as a race to the bottom, where multinationals channel profits through low tax jurisdictions.
What?
I see the breakthrough now.
You can see.
Where previously you couldn't tax, now you can be able to tax.
Now you can
but
tax.
They haven't quite concretized the deal, but they're working on concretizing it. And when they do, then it means one will be able to raise more money as KRA. Yes, I see it. The other thing on the headlines, it says, hey. Right. KQ pilots defy SAC, threats to ground flights for 30 days, done. New MPs take fight for hefty allowances to SRC's doorstep. Airtel Kenya's net loss widens to 1.7 billion. SMEs to access capital through the stock market.
Okay. 2 election losers have been ordered to pay 2.6 million shillings for filing invalid petitions.
How do you do that exactly?
In the Budalangi by-election, for example, Justice Wilfrida Okwanyi of the High Court in Busia ordered Alfred Maloba of UDA to pay Budalangi lawmaker Raphael Wanjala, the IEBC, and the Budalangi returning officer Moses Simiyu a cumulative sum of 1.5 million shillings for filing a defective suit. She said Maloba, who came second in the polls with 14,146 votes against Wanjala's 15,572, failed to name IEBC as a respondent in his petition. But he's been told to pay IEBC. The requirement for the inclusion of IEBC to the petition is a substantive legal requirement and is not a procedural technicality that this court can excuse or extend the time to enable compliance to be made. So someone went to court, filed a petition, respondent, Wanjala. And not IEBC. And the judge is like,
we're wasting our time. You're even not asking the correct person to answer your point.
The judge said IEBC, which is overseeing the polls, was both a necessary and mandatory party to the petition. She said the period within which the petition could have been amended so as to incorporate the commission had long lapsed. Maloba filed the petition on 7th of September to challenge the declaration of Wanjala as a third-term MP, saying the polls were not credible. Wanjala on his part challenged the petition, saying it was defective. In Vihiga, James Ndenda, who was from the PPK party, who sought to overturn the election of Godfrey Otsotsi, ODM, as a senator for Vihiga, was asked to pay him, the IEBC and the Vihiga County Returning Officer, a cumulative 1.1 million shillings for failing to obey procedures of filing an election petition. In any event, the filing of this petition was in itself an access to justice, and all that Ndenda was required to do is simply comply with procedural imperatives that come with an election petition, according to Justice Joseph Karanja, sitting in Vihiga. In the race for the senatorial race, which attracted 14 candidates, Ndenda came second to Otsotsi with 25,000 against 62,000. Ndenda filed his petition, saying the poll was not conducted in a manner consistent with the Constitution and had glaring irregularities. So they've just been told, you're saying what? Now look at how you file this. Because of the technicality of filing.
And it's a technicality. We can understand the thrust of this case. However, you've petitioned the wrong person, essentially.
Yes.
So because of this wrong petitioning, you're being fined. So who will they pay? In this case, this 2.7 million, who will they pay essentially?
The candidate who won?
Yes.
The IEBC?
Wow.
And the returning officer.
Wow. So even if there were a case, Eric, just because of this technicality, suffer it.
And remember, they're time bound.
Yeah.
You must file a petition by this time.
Yeah.
Remember, we spoke to the registrar from the courts, and they told us 100 and something petitions had been filed.
Yeah.
Now these are the ones.
Shish kebab.
And the courts are basically just saying, don't just come to us and waste our time. Okay?
This is not an example
Ili
of
iwe
such.
funzo. Don't just come and blah.
Itakuwa funzo kubwa sana, man.
Yes.
Sawa. COP27. Everybody keeps asking. COP, World Cup. Conference of Parties is what it is. And this is the 27th of such. The UN Climate Summit begins with warning that the planet is in distress. We can see it here, and it is not a story or a fairy tale. The UN's Climate Change Summit has opened in Egypt with a warning that our planet is sending a distress signal. Secretary General Antonio Guterres was responding to a UN report released yesterday, saying the past 8 years were on track to be the warmest on record. More than 120 leaders are due to arrive at the summit known as COP27 in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. This will kick off 2 weeks of negotiations between parties on climate action. COP27 President, Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, urged leaders to not let food and energy crises related to Russia's invasion of Ukraine get in the way of action on climate change. He said it is inherent on us all in Sharm el-Sheikh to demonstrate our recognition of the magnitude of the challenge we face and our steadfast resolve to overcome it. The need for action was laid bare in the latest report from the UN's World Meteorological Organization. Mr. Guterres sent a video message to the conference in which he called the State of the Global Climate Report 2022 a chronicle of ultimate, or rather climate chaos. In it, scientists estimate that global temperatures have now risen by 1.15 degrees centigrade since pre-industrial times, and said the latest 8 years were on track to be the warmest on record. The report also warned of the other wide-ranging impacts of climate change, including the acceleration of sea level rise, record glacier mass losses, and record-breaking heat waves. Guterres said in the light of these findings, COP27 must be the place for urgent and credible climate action. This is great, but as I've always said, those who obviously are at the forefront of steering this engine, of contributing more, it is upon them that the pressure must be put.
Yeah,
Africa is being invited to a conversation and into an action whereby they have the least in terms
of contribution.
The
whole talk of compensation. So the West, the big polluters, have basically just been skirting around it. Oh, we're going to put in a fund, for climate action, this and the other. But when it comes to actual implementation of the resolutions that come out of it,
it's a talk shop, man. What are you doing?
This thing isn't even very difficult to audit, because we understand who the big industrial nations are.
Yeah.
Now, a simple question: can they table and inform the rest of the world how it is they've either improved their technology or how it is they have worked towards reducing the very, very processes that bring about these emissions we keep speaking of? Okay? And it doesn't mean that you reduce the emissions in your country by moving the factory to some other country, okay, which doesn't have your problem. So essentially what you've done is exported the problem to a place where it didn't exist in the first place. Okay. But this now is human nature at its very worst. Because somehow the commercial leaders who have a very big say, industrial leaders who have a very big say in the politics of the various countries, seem to be having the last word on this one here. We had a German minister for state who told us that they wasted 20 years. They could have gone into renewable energy, but they didn't. Why didn't they? And are they the only ones who are thinking along those lines? Why didn't they? You're talking about a country that is technologically advanced like Germany. And are we saying that they were not able to?
They were not able to move faster than they did.
Yes. Leaders in very many spheres in this particular, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's in industrial, whether it's engineering, and you're telling us they could not have foreseen this thing or they couldn't have done anything about it?
Nothing.
No. This focus on self-interest, it'll be our undoing. And this undoing will be brought upon us when we are quiet and we don't do anything about it.
That's why I am very vocal against those who say, you African countries, please do not pursue fossil fuel. And yet they are still pursuing fossil energy.
So what exactly are they telling us?
Yeah, but no. You Uganda, don't do that pipeline because it's a danger to you Kenya, don't do that coal because it's a danger. But they are still, in fact, now that they have issues with Russia, they're firing up more coal. Anyway, let me tell you what's going to be happening soon. Soon, you'll have an opportunity to visit a place called Naserian Ridge. Olive Real Estate presents Naserian Ridge Phase 3, a gated community and infrastructural development located 4 kilometers from the SGR substation at Nachu and 500 meters from Ngong Suswa Road, providing freehold titles and beacons and in close proximity to schools, electricity and water. Come for the site visit on the 19th of November. And you can book your slot on 0704 303030. That's 0704 303030. Or you can visit their website, olivelimited.com. Keep it here for more. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Now, the Standard Gauge Railway continues to be a project surrounded in mystery. Where are the contracts that were signed on behalf of Kenyans is the question everyone is asking now. The Standard Major Group sought the answers here. It's a report by Leah Ubaga.
At the close of the last financial year, Kenya defaulted on a scheduled payment for an assortment of Chinese financiers behind the Standard Gauge Railway, which has been touted as the legacy project for former President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration. The consequences of this default, like any other high-interest loan, pose a potential danger to the country's economic well-being. Since the launch, details of Kenya's deal with China for the construction, management, pay and subsequent handover of the project have remained scanty, with a contract that put Kenya in near perpetual debt to the Chinese known only to a few individuals. Now, the Standard can reveal the details of the contract that for the first time will shed light on the individuals who negotiated the deal on behalf of the country, what we were meant to get as locomotives, the payment schedules, and a skewed agreement that appears to favor the Chinese government and farms at the expense of Kenyan taxpayers. All this while institutions trusted by the citizens to oversee government-to-government business looking the other way, the results of which have been a project that has been criticized not just for its setting up cost, but its general long-term economic value to the taxpayers. This is a story of greed, corner-cutting, failure, and eventual slavery. On 4th October 2012, 4 individuals sat in a room in a government office in Nairobi, eager to put their names, signatures, and designations onto a document that would join 2 countries at the hip for the foreseeable future. As chatter went on around the room, 3 of the 4 people entitled to make decisions on behalf of the countries signed the document. First to sign was Nduva Muli, the then managing director of the Kenya Airways Corporation. Next was Mr. Lee King, the general manager of the China Road and Bridge Corporation. He then slid the document to his side, where Mr. Yang Ji also signed as his witness. One more person was needed. The Kenya Airways company secretary was yet to append his signature on the document. Finally, when he did, he failed to indicate his name. A rubber stamp reading Corporation Secretary, Kenya Airways Corporation, was used in place of the name. In a matter of minutes, one of the most controversial partnerships ever entered by the Kenyan government was sealed, setting in motion the beginning of the construction of a new railway line whose proponents promised would change the country in every aspect. In 2009, when Kenya's Ministry of Transport and the China Road and Bridge Company signed a memorandum of understanding in August of 2009, the MOU indicated that the initial steps of the project involved a feasibility study into the viability of the project. The study was to be conducted by a nominee of the Chinese government, the China Road and Bridge Company, at no cost. In the years that followed through, it emerged that the free feasibility study was an in for the Chinese into the project. Later negotiations put the CRBC at the center of the project, locking out any potential competition for the construction of the railway. On 17th May 2010, less than a year after the signing of the MOU, the Kenya Airways Corporation put out a request for proposals for consultancy services for the preliminary design and environmental and social impact assessment for developing a modern high-capacity standard gauge railway line between Mombasa and Malaba, with a branch line to Kisumu. 7 months after the official RFP by the Kenya Railways, CRBC was ready with its feasibility report, submitting it in January of 2011, complete with recommendations that would significantly alter the final project on both the technical aspect as well as the financial aspect. Kenya Railways had put out an RFP for the development of a modern high-capacity standard gauge railway engine that would initially run between the 2 cities of Nairobi and Kisumu and connect Kenya to Uganda. The feasibility study was complete by January 2011 and presented to the Ministry of Transport. It wasn't, however, until the following year that the SGR began to shape up. In January 2012, the Kenya Embassy in Beijing, China, located on road number 4, a neighborhood that also hosts the Embassy of the Republic of Guinea, the Embassy of Nepal, as well as the Royal Embassy in Saudi Arabia, made contact with the Chinese government. Central to the contact was to pass on a message from the Kenya Airways Corporation with regard to the feasibility study conducted by CRBC. The key message being Kenya Railways needed financial help from China to build a project whose feasibility study had been conducted by a Chinese company. From that point on, CRBC's advantage was unassailable, and its officials quickly went back to the drawing board and developed a proposal that included a proposed financing scheme. Join us for the second episode of the SGR Mysteries.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Monday morning traffic looks quite busy in certain parts of the city, and we're looking at it having already built up on the Jogo Road, getting out towards the roundabout. We're going to see some of it spill over to Likoni. The other half is going to spill onto Landis and then out towards Kamkunji. Let's look at the Thika Superhighway, which is really busy, way past that outer ring junction and going well into Kiambu County. It's past Tusker Village. It's past what's coming off of the Safari Park Hotel, way beyond Committee Road this morning. So whatever's going on Thika Superhighway, patience is going to be needed here. The service lanes are looking like they're working pretty well, so you might want to use that as an option to get into the city. In and outbound traffic is doing its thing this morning on James Gishuru, coming out towards Waiaki Way and then going towards Westlands. Ring Road Westlands packed up really early coming out of that whole area. We're looking at Gong Road busy as well. It's going to connect with Gitanga, and we're looking at Riara Road. We're looking at Kingara Road as well. Really busy traffic going all the way out into the city this morning. Monday morning has started off with a bang. Where are you? Are you stuck? Let us know. If you find a good route to use this morning, let us know that as well. Let's keep things moving this morning. Talk to us, SpiceFMKE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The
It's
only
8
way
minutes
to
after 7.
start.
Good morning and welcome to the second hour of The Situation Room this morning, the 7th of November 2022. We are now live on KTN Home, in addition to being live on SpiceFM and online on Facebook and Twitter. We have a guest in the studio, the Group CEO and Managing Director of Kenya Airways. Before we welcome and introduce him, there is a proverb today from a country that's between Libya and the Atlantic. Somewhere.
Yes.
The country is called?
Mauritania.
Uh-huh.
Others pronounce it as Mauritania.
Uh-huh.
And whose capital? Man, you need to pronounce this. I have difficulties.
So it's French word, but it's Nouakchott. So remember, the last letter in French is rarely pronounced unless it's followed by a vowel.
Uh-huh.
Now you have two T's in Nouakchott, so you will pronounce the first one is actually what you're pronouncing, not the last one. Nouakchott.
Oh, those are stories.
Have you understood what Ndu just said?
Nouakchott now, that's what you... Okay, I pronounced it for you.
It's called Nouakchott.
Nouakchott.
Okay.
Nouakchott.
Okay.
A donkey which goes to grow horns returns with the ears cut off.
Mm-hmm. A donkey that does what? Does what again?
Goes to
Donkey on a journey.
Yes.
The journey is to grow horns.
Yes.
When they come back,
Yeah.
they find the ears are the ones which have been cut off. No horn.
No horn.
Sorry, horn. No horn.
The ears have been cut off.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, take your mind in the direction of a donkey with horns first.
Yes.
And look at the probability or the possibilities of it. Highly improbable, isn't it? But were it to happen, what do you think would...
Nothing big.
Okay, fine.
Just look different.
Yes, it would look different.
Yeah. Donkeys don't fight with their heads anyway, so the horns wouldn't be...
Donkeys kick and donkeys bite. Yes.
Birds strike with your head.
No, hardly. That one is left for the sheep.
For the sheep. Reminds me of that nursery rhyme. Maskini punda alinyimwa pembe akapewa skio hati ndiyo pembe. Okay. Alan Kilavuka is the Group Managing Director and CEO of Kenya Airways. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Eric.
Uh-huh. Are you growing horns or getting your ears cut off?
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
Getting your ears cut off. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
I would imagine that you haven't been sleeping much, but, well, that's the nature of the job, okay? So we're not going to say sorry for that. Pole sana lakini.
No, I've tried to put my head down, but it's been a tough weekend. Very tough weekend.
Has it?
Yeah.
You released a statement yesterday in which you said that you had gotten some flights back on air, some 4 flights, and you're saying that you expect some more flights this week, from today. What's the current status as we speak?
So today we have 17 flights operating. Of course, that is still suboptimal. We have a few pilots who have called in to operate the flights. And of course, there are pilots who never went on this unlawful strike. So the limited number of pilots who are operating those flights are proceeding. What we expect is, as I was just checking the status, more and more pilots are calling in to say that they want to operate. So we expect this trend to continue. And as we continue to get more pilots back on duty, then of course we continue to increase our frequencies.
Sorry, say the number again. 17 or 19 flights?
19 flights.
19 flights.
Sorry,
19 flights this morning.
Yeah.
All of them, are they local, international?
Some are local.
Africa?
Some are local. Some are international. I think there is London, I believe. There is also Johannesburg.
Okay.
And a few others. I can't remember all of them. Yeah.
And these are unionizable pilots who are actually flying this?
Yes. Remember, in CALPA, all pilots, including manager pilots, are members of CALPA.
Okay.
Right? So, yes, indeed, a large majority of those people who are flying those are managers, but we also have members of CALPA who are not managers, who are also helping us and doing the patriotic thing of trying to help us evacuate a lot of the stranded passengers here.
How many people are stranded at JKIA?
It is difficult to tell because they keep increasing and decreasing. But as at yesterday, we had 500 guests in various hotels. I estimate there's probably another 100 or so who are stuck at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How about those who wanted to come back into the country or are stuck in various other capitals?
So if you look at the entire network, we have impacted about 12,000 passengers. So across the network, those ones who wanted to come, those ones who wanted to leave, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay. And this, before I get to the question, just a clarification, is that those numbers of folks that we're looking at who have to spend the night or 2 or 4 in a hotel, that bill is being covered by Kenya Airways?
Yes.
Okay.
It's being covered by Kenya Airways.
Until they are on a plane to where they need to go?
That's correct.
All right. So I think the question here that everybody's asking is, what on earth is going on, Alan? There are many things that we have heard. There is a CBA that is in place, is it not? And it would appear as though the pilots are complaining about the elements of the CBA having not been affected to date. Is there truth in that, at the very least?
Yeah. So I think it's important for me to state the facts so that it's clear.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they have the pilot union pilot association has raised several elements. They have raised several grievances, actually 4, in buckets of 4.
Yep.
Okay. Some of those elements relate to the CBA, so that is completely true.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have absolutely nothing to do with the CBA. Okay. For example, their demand that I exit the organization has nothing to do with the CBA, but we'll get to that. Mm-hmm. Others do have an association with the CBA and terms and conditions of service. So they raised grievances sometime this month. Initially, first of all, we have been having discussions around these elements, okay, trying to get a solution and so on and so forth. But at some point, they disagreed. They were not happy with my negotiating team. So what did they do? They wrote a strike notice, 14-day strike notice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I wrote back through the ministry and said, we have not exhausted the dispute resolution mechanism. So there was no point at that point to go on strike. Let's talk about it. And the ministry said, yes, that's true. They invited us to have a discussion around those elements. They refused to attend that meeting. At the same time, the Court Secretary General, Dr. Francis Atwoli, offered to mediate. He said, let me come, okay? Because he is a unionist, so he understands the union. So he came, sat with the union, and we sat on this side, and we talked about all those elements. And Dr. Atwoli said to them, these elements are not worth a strike. These elements, and first of all, we addressed some of them, okay? Maybe not to their satisfaction, we addressed. So Atwoli said, listen, you don't need to go on strike on these issues. These are issues that are resolvable, okay? And the element, this last one that you're asking for the sacking of the CEO and other people is not within your remit, okay? That is something outside your remit. It's not in your CBA, it's nothing. And they've tried this before. They did this in 2016. So now they're trying it again, okay? So these other ones, yeah, absolutely. And the management has given you some counter offers. So let's talk about it. No need to go on strike. They refuse to listen. They refuse to heed that. And
the clock is still running.
And the clock is still running. So Atwoli said, okay, sawa. The Ministry of... the Ministry of Transport now invited us, and then also invited the Ministry of Labour. 2 CSS, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Labour. Okay? The claim that CALP officials were making is that we were, first of all, unreachable, not willing to compromise, and all that, right? So we subjected ourselves to a neutral person. And all this time, Atwoli has been there, Ministry has offered, and now 2 CSS. They spent with us 5 hours. In fact, I felt very embarrassed. 5 hours. 2 CSS, 1 PS, the Commissioner of Labour, to try and talk through those issues. Again, we went through each and every item. The ministry told us, can you give concessions? We said, yes. Let's give that concession. Let's give this concession. Let's give this concession. This is outside the remit. This is outside the remit. The ministry themselves said, indeed, the termination or the removal of the CEO and managers is completely outside the remit. That one is not something you're supposed to be discussing in a strike. 5 hours, they completely refused. They have not moved 1 inch from their position earlier. Okay? In the meantime, they are sending notices and messages to their members saying, the management has given 90% to our demands. So it's only 10%. The question we are asking is, if that were true, why not come back to work, right? And continue negotiating on the 10% that you're saying has not been given to you. Why are you continuing on the strike? What is the real intention of this strike? Exactly. At the same time, we have told them, some of the, let me give you an example, and some of these issues are in court, by the way, and some of those demands they have there. The Provident Fund. The Provident Fund does not only affect the members of the union or the association, CALPA. It affects all employees. We have pleaded with all employees. This company is in financial dire straits. Please give us time before we bring back the Provident Fund. All other employees have said, we understand, we'll be patient. We are asking the same of this association. Please be patient. This company has been relying on the taxpayer. We cannot go back to the taxpayer again and ask them, please help us fund our Provident Fund. We need to do that from our operations. And the operations have been picking up slowly but surely. So at this time, when operations have been picking up, our flights are filling up, we are now able to pay our salaries. We are able to pay some of the things. Give us time so that we build up enough cash so that we can fulfill the obligation.
How much time were you seeking?
So we gave them options, actually. We said, can we start slowly in January? Okay, or can we finish some because we owe them a lot of money. We owe employees a lot of money. So can we finish paying your other dues? And we were going to finish them in July and then start the Provident Fund in August. We gave them options. Or can we extend these payments that we're making for you every month and then start the Provident Fund? We gave them different options.
You say you owe staff money. Yeah. Explain.
So we owe staff money. Now, this is another thing as well. When we were negotiating for pay cuts during COVID, originally we had requested our staff and the unions that let's take pay cuts because company has no revenue. Okay, we spoke, and so they said, no, we cannot take pay cuts. What we'd like you to do is, yes, reduce our salaries, but then we defer that amount.
So it's deferred payment.
It's deferred payment. Okay, there is no other airline, and I think no other company which did that. Okay, now we are telling them.
So when you were talking about some people taking home 60% of their original pay, was it there was 80% for management, going all the way graduated
Correct.
up to, was it 30%?
Yes.
So that was all deferred?
Yes.
It was not a pay cut?
No.
You were to pay at a later date?
Yes.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we are paying back right now. Okay? And in place of that, so we cannot pay that and the Provident Fund at the same time. That's what we've told them. Actually, employees pushed us, rightly so, pushed us to start paying the deferred pay. Because they said, the economy is in dire states, we don't have money, so please pay us the deferred pay. Said, okay, fine. So we started paying the deferred pay. Employees were happy. Said, give us time, let us finish paying this deferred pay before we start resuming the Provident Fund. But no, the union officials are saying, pay us everything. And I'm asking them, where do we get the money to pay you everything? This money has to come from somewhere, either from operations or from, I dare say, taxpayers. I don't have the right conscience to go back and say, please give us money so we can pay a Provident Fund. Yet we are paying deferred pay. That is the reason we're having. I mean, in the 5 hours, the negotiations that we're having, I put it to the CS, said, CS, this is what it will mean for us to fulfill all this demand. Are you going to be willing to give us money? And of course they can't. There's drought that we're taking care of. There is the economy we're trying to revive. So,
When you've been repaying these deferred salaries, are you paying at the same rate to everybody, or are there cadres that are receiving a higher percentage in terms of repayment?
So the way we did it, the way we're doing it is we are paying the deferred pay of 2021, which we have actually we're about to finish. Okay?
Yeah.
So those ones who got, let's say, 20% pay cut or deferred pay are getting back their 20%. Those ones who got 50 and so on and so forth. But what we also did is there is the very lowest cadre of staff. Those ones we covered because it's not much. And then for every one of us, we're paying as we go.
So everybody is getting the pay that they got deferred.
Yes.
So for example, the CEO who had an 80% reduced pay is getting repaid at 80%.
Yes.
Could that be a bone of contention then? That they're looking at and seeing the CEO is getting his salaries paid so fast, and yet...
How can that be a bone of contention? Everybody is being paid at the rate at which they were deferred. So how can it be a bone of contention?
If somebody wishes to find fault, believe me, they will.
Yeah.
Okay? And it doesn't matter how sensible and reasonable you sound. If one is stuck on a particular point, it means that the agenda may not be the issue that is actually being discussed. It's something else. Because from what I hear you say, there is logic to it. And if I look at the individuals you've mentioned, the groupings who've come to talk about it, it means this matter has been taken with utmost seriousness at all levels of government.
Yes.
If the Secretary General of KOTU, the body that oversees all unions, can wade into this discussion, then it means it's been taken seriously. Now, before I ask the question, I want to ask, just so that I understand, how many planes does Kenya Airways have?
Round about 41.
41. Yeah. How many pilots do we have?
400.
Okay. Explain to me so that I can understand. No, I need to understand. There is rationale for this, I'm sure.
Yes, it's
okay?
rationale, yeah.
Yes. So how 41 planes, 400. So it's 10 pilots per plane. And then there's one spare.
Okay.
Alan, you should see where he's going with this question.
No. Listen. Okay, so first of all, that is within the international standards of aviation. Okay? So let's just be clear that it's not abnormal. Secondly, there's reason to that, like you said.
That's what I want to understand.
Yeah. So the way pilots operate, the way they fly, there's requirements from a safety point of view on how long they need to rest, when they need to rest, the days they need to take off, how many pilots need to be on an aircraft, for how long, purely for safety reasons. So if you take all that into account and our schedules, you will see that we do require those number of pilots, because let me give you an example. So pilots that are leaving from Nairobi for 8 hours, fly into London, okay, they have to lay over in London for rest. Then we have pilots,
and those are two pilots.
Yeah.
So two pilots take off JKIA to London Heathrow.
Yeah. To London Heathrow. Then they land in London Heathrow. We have pilots who are stationed in London, who will now board that aircraft and fly back. Okay? There is a minimum rest requirement for those pilots who have laid off in London. And when those ones who come back to Nairobi also require minimum rest.
Okay.
All this for safety purposes.
All right.
So in the matrix of pilots versus aircraft, all those equations have been taken into account, and so it is within international standards. So we're not overemployed. Let me just answer the question shortly.
So is this the bare minimum, or is it an optimum figure?
It is an optimum figure.
It's an optimum figure.
Correct.
Could we do with less?
Yes, we could, but
what would we compromise?
No. So we need to do. There's something we call productivity. Increasing productivity.
Yes.
How we train our pilots, how we promote them, because our pilots, the way our training is scheduled, is such that if it is made a little bit more efficient and targeted to the types of aircraft, then we could spend less time in training and more time flying, for example. As a result of which, then they can fly more, and we will need probably slightly less. So yes, it could be optimized, but it needs discussion. We need to look into the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, and agree with the pilots, to change some of the clauses in the CBA to make it a little bit more productive for them. So yes, it can be optimized.
Alan, you did mention, and I think you've mentioned a number of times in the last 20 or so minutes, that this, number one, the strike is illegal and that the demands are illegal. What is the element of illegality in all of this that's happening? And then what does it mean? Because on one side, if we look at the other side, we've got thousands of passengers who are stranded in and outbound. We have an impasse. We've talked about, 300 million shillings a day being lost by the carrier, minimum, and likely going to $1 billion by the end of today, isn't it? But then you also speak of an illegality. What's illegal about this action?
Yeah. All right. I didn't mention that when the pilots went on strike, when we tried to mediate, through ministry and so on and so forth, and we saw they were being belligerent, we decided to go to court and get an injunction, which we did, which we served on them.
And the injunction was to preempt strike?
Yes, not to take this action, strike action. Because a strike is a constitutional right, it's a guaranteed constitutional right. But the right, of course, has to be within some, it has to be legal.
Yeah.
So we went to court, got the injunction, we served the injunction on them, and communicated to them that this strike, many times, not once, not twice, several times, that this strike is unlawful. By the way, the lawyers told me it's supposed to be unlawful, not illegal. I don't know what the difference is, but it's unlawful, okay? So we communicate. So that's the part that we're saying this strike is unlawful and it's unprotected. And we've told them many times. The CSS have told them the government has told them many times. I have heard them say that there is no strike in Kenya which is legal. And therefore, we don't care for the court order. Okay? That, in my opinion, we cannot live in that kind of society. We have got to obey the rule of law. One of the things that they have said in their memorandum or in their list of grievances is that we are victimizing the CALP officials. Okay? They have listed 4 people.
Yeah.
And that is not true, but anyway, they have listed the 4 people, saying we are victimizing them, they're claiming we didn't follow procedure or whatever. Okay? Now, they are asking us also, they are saying that we have broken certain rules. Okay, CBA rules. We've broken KCAS, which is the regulation rules. Okay? They're accusing us of impunity. Now, you tell me, breaking or contempting the contempt of court, a court order, a lawful court order, isn't that impunity? Isn't that impunity? A lawful court order. You say, I don't care for it. I am above the law or whatever you're saying.
You know, Alan, there's where they're coming from. In this country, every time any union wants to go on strike, especially one that's dealing with the government, be it doctors, be it nurses, be it now pilots, be it anybody, there always will be a court injunction telling them don't go on strike. And they will go on strike, and the government will keep shouting that this is an unlawful and unprotected strike. But the strike will continue. So they have history to look at.
Okay.
But let's take a break. We'll talk more about this. It's 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Alan Kilavuka is the group managing director and CEO of Kenya Airways. We are talking about the strike by pilots that's taking place at Kenya Airways. He says some 19 flights are back in operation today. They're flying to various destinations, and they're trying to resolve this as they still have conversations with the Kenya Airline Pilots Association and the government and other stakeholders. What will it take to resolve this KQ impasse? We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Congratulations. You've seen the hand of the Lord.
Thank you very much. I've earned another title today, this morning at SpiceFM. Mama Justice, I don't mind it.
Joel in Kericho.
Salama sana Heri, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama bwana, mambo namna gani?
Salama kabisa bro.
Mambo ya Inamoi kuliendaje?
Mambo ya Inamoi, vile nilikwambia ndugu yangu, alienda asubuhi na ile gari ya kwanza.
I must have missed it.
So did I.
Even if somebody was to render you irrelevant, there is still work you can do.
Okay, sawa.
I deserve to keep you accountable. You deserve to give me a report. You don't work for me. No, I don't work for you. You work for me.
Do you like that Freudian slip? Lovely, isn't it? Thank you very much.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, we're looking at light rain in parts of Nairobi at 17, highs of 25 and lows of 16. It's 13 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 12. Cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 15, highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 24 in a partly sunny Eldoret at 14. Mostly cloudy conditions at 26 in Mombasa, highs of 30 and lows of 24, and we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 25 in a rainy Malindi at 26. It's now raining in Kisumu at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 19, and it's 19 and sunny in Kakamega, highs of 26 and lows of 15. Rain showers this morning in Kampala at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 17, and we'll see lows of 24 in a sunny Dar es Salaam at 26. It's sunny at 15 in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 14, and mostly clear conditions in Lagos this morning at 26. We'll go to highs of 32. 32 will also be the high recognized in Kinshasa, where it's mostly clear at 23.
Spice up your life.
Disturbingly heavy traffic on Jogga Road this morning, and it's in and outbound now, going out towards Landis Road, and we're looking at Heshima Avenue just to the north of that. Really heavy, then coming off out of Uhuru Estate. Very busy traffic in the eastern part of the city this morning, and we're also looking at it doing the same on this other side, coming off of Gong Road, going out then towards Naivasha Road through towards James Gishuru. Really heavy traffic there. Raila Odinga Way is also pretty busy. Looking at the Thika Superhighway, that started very early, and it's heavy in and outbound on Kiambu Road as well, coming through to the city via Muranga Road. We're also looking at it having built up on Limuru Road. We're getting into traffic hour really early this morning, and it looks like it's going to be there for some time this Monday. Turning out to be quite crazy already. Be careful, folks, doesn't matter what it is. The rain is also coming down, so you want to be careful with those slippery streets. Talk to us on SpiceFM. KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
The
FM.
conversation continues in the Situation Room on SpiceFM, KTN and online with Alan Kilavuka, the Group Managing Director and CEO of Kenya Airways. What will it take to resolve this KQ impasse? Alan, many times we have had pilots raising issues, and it's one with regards to the CBA and two with regards to management of the airline. And they say they are heavily invested in this airline. They are patriotic Kenyans. They want to continue serving through this airline, but they feel that the management is taking the airline in a different direction, and yet they would like to see a change. Do you at some point sit back and hear, well, there are areas where the pilots have suggestions and ideas where we can sit and actually adopt some of these ideas?
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Indeed, it is true. First of all, a majority of the pilots, a large majority of the pilots, are professional. Of course, they're very well trained, very highly skilled. Kenyan pilots are very highly skilled as well. Now, in as far as ideas, many pilots have given me many ideas. Let me give you an example. Pilots have walked into my office and said, I want to take charge of this particular project. For example, we have a project with the United Nations. The United Nations project that we're running is run by a pilot. Okay? He's in charge of that project. In other words, how can you do more business with the United Nations? Mm-hmm. There's another pilot who stepped in during COVID and was part of the innovation hub, what we have set up, an innovation hub. Mm. So we do have pilots who come in, they offer support, they offer suggestions, and we take them in. In the pilot union did give suggestions, not to me, I think to the media, and they sent it out and they were agitating for certain things. Of course, some of those things that they put in the suggestions are good things. Most of them were implementing them anyway. And so, of course, we welcome, not just the pilots. When you're saying the pilots are saying they're heavily invested, it's true. They're heavily invested because, that's what they do, they fly. But also remember, we have 3,400 other people who are also heavily invested in the organization. Mm. We have cabin crew, we have technicians who fix the aircraft. We have professionals in the back office who do the same. So everyone is heavily invested. Everyone is just as important as the pilots when it comes to having a stake in the Kenya Airways.
They say they'd like to see a pilot heading the airline.
They'd like to
see a pilot heading the airline.
I mean, if a pilot, of course, if a pilot is has sufficient managerial expertise, yes, there are certain airlines who have pilots running the airline. The latest, the one that I know, off the top of my head, Congo Airways had a Captain Kasongo, who was the CEO of Congo Airways. Unfortunately, it's no longer operating. But Captain Kasongo was CEO of Kenya Airways. We have Congo Airways.
Yes.
Yeah, we have different Air Baltic. There's a captain there as CEO. So yes, of course, if there's a pilot, but that does not mean that only a captain or a pilot can lead the airline. Many other people can, because this is a managerial task.
When I hear conversations about how heavily invested they are in and the work they have put in, well, I guess everyone, those of us who are in this studio, could say we're also very heavily invested in this particular organization and in this show. But even as we say this, I need to understand how an airline actually functions. And let me ask you what it is that I need to understand, okay? My reading tells me that I cannot wake up in the morning and go to a shop on Mombasa Road and point at a plane and say, I want to buy that plane. How much is it? And I write a check. I'm told it is leased.
Well, you can buy it as well
if you have the money. All right, now, of the planes we have in Kenya, let me start there. Let me explain. Let me give you a background as to why I'm going about this. Most people who talk about being heavily invested in an organization, apart from just being paid, they probably want to be part of the owners of that particular organization in one way or the other. My thinking. So let me ask the question. Who owns our planes?
There are two types. There are planes that we own as Kenya Airways, which we are paying, of course, we have a loan, so we're paying back the loan.
That lease that I spoke of.
Yeah, yes. That is called a finance lease. So we have a group of those aircraft. There are two which you fully own. We paid off. We fully own those ones. Then there's another group of planes which we hire. It's called an operating lease. Okay, so those ones are owned by lessors, international lessors, and their job is to buy a lot of aircraft, and then they lease to different airlines. So those are the two types of aircraft. But let me guess where this question is going to. There's been a lot of talk and rumors, because unfortunately we Kenyans like rumor mongering.
We love,
right? We
love.
Yeah, we love gossip, rumor mongering, conspiracy theorists, and so on.
Completely.
So, but let me bust the bubble of the rumor mongers and so on in this particular case. I'm telling you, the operating leases, the finance leased aircraft are owned. So the operating leases are owned by international lessors. The lease is public. The ones we financed from, we bought this aircraft financed by renowned banks, Citibank, JP Morgan, Afri-Exim, Standard Chartered, Nedbank South Africa, China Development Bank, and so on. And again, we've published it in our financials. But Kenyans want to look for conspiracies. To find out what exactly, who is behind this.
So what are you saying? So the planes that we own, that we own.
Fully own.
Fully own
are only two.
Two.
Yeah.
The ones that we are repaying,
yes,
the loans, you're saying we have borrowed directly from these financial institutions?
Okay, not directly.
Not through intermediaries?
No, not directly.
Okay.
Well, those banks, the ones I mentioned, what they do, they set up special purpose vehicles, okay? Because they don't want to own an aircraft. They are banks, okay? And this happens in both aviation and maritime.
Yeah.
You set up a special purpose vehicle. In our case, one is called Savo, another one is called Samburu.
Yeah. Now,
Savo is the one for the Dreamliners. Samburu is the one for the Embraers. And Eric, this kind of special purpose vehicles has happened over time in Kenya Airways. We've had Ndovu, Simba, those names.
All right.
But, Kenyans, when they see and in fact, I'll say something that I hope is hilarious. But, when they see those names, they say, this one must be owned by, Samburu is owned by, say a Maasai, for example.
This one is Maasai.
Yeah.
There's a Ma.
And they think of a name and they say, this one.
Yeah, this one. Now, another ridiculous one that I had was, our aircraft, they have registrations. So we have 5Y, KQ something, or 5Y FFM, 5Y FFY, whatever. And so someone said, oh, no, this 5Y FF. Oh, FF means fast family.
Right.
I mean, we like conspiracy. There's what is there? What is hidden? Who is there?
Do you know the beneficial owners of these special purpose vehicles?
I've just told you they were set up by the banks
themselves.
Yes.
So they're 100% controlled and owned by the bank.
Yes.
All right. The ones where we lease the aircraft from. Tell us about that.
The ones.
Who do we lease the aircraft from?
Okay.
These lessors.
The lessors.
Who are they?
Most of these lessors, we have 12 lessors.
Right.
Most of the lessors are based in Dublin, in Ireland. Okay. There are 12. Some of them are huge, like AirCap. AirCap has probably 2,000 aircraft. Okay, and they lease to different airlines. There are some which are smaller, which maybe have 200 aircraft. But all of them are international lessors, okay, which we lease from. Now, the challenge that we have had in the past is when we are leasing from these international lessors, because we are leasing only maybe 4, 5, 3 aircraft, it's more difficult for us to get the best deal possible, compared to the larger airlines which can lease 400, 200, and so on and so forth. Okay, so their scale is big enough for them to drive a bigger bargain. Having said that, we have spent the last 8 months negotiating with those lessors to bring down the lease cost. Okay, and we worked very hard. And I've reported before, we now have been able to get about 20% off our leases from next year. Starting from January, we'll be able to enjoy the 20%. So that is part of our cost optimization efforts going forward.
So are you saying, Alan, I'm just going to ask you this one directly, because there are people who have said that there are people who are benefiting from all these things that happen at Kenya Airways, you know, whether it's making money or it's not, it gets money from the government. This money then goes to pay some shadowy contractors here and there, whether they're leasing planes to us, whether they're servicing our planes, whether they're offering extra services. Are you saying that there is nothing untoward at all?
There is nothing untoward at all. There is no systematic scheming that is taking place. The problems in Kenya Airways, so that it is very clear, are well documented. Okay, one is we have a problem with some of our fleet. You know, and the decisions that were made in good faith, but we have kind of a misfit in some of our fleet. All right, that is we're dealing with. So, for example, we have the 777-300ER, which is too big for our network currently, which we're subleasing to Turkish. That particular aircraft is costing us a lot of money. We're trying to remove it from our fleet. Okay, there are actually two of them. There are actually three. One is owned by us, the other two are leased. So those ones, we are trying to get them off our fleet. This other problem that we have is our high costs, generally high costs.
Yeah.
And I just explained what we're doing with the leases, for instance. City was asking me about pilots, and I was talking across our airline, we need to be more productive. Okay, do more with the same number of people or even with less people. Do more with the resources we have or even with less resources. So we need to be more productive. The other thing is we need to look, when you look at productivity, we have to look at the CBA. Okay, and see how we can help each other for this airline to improve.
What about the CBA would you like changed?
No, I mean, there are certain clauses. I don't want to prosecute that case here because we sent our proposals to CALPA. We sent them in August, asked them to consider those clauses because it's a negotiation back and forth. And so we're waiting for them to come back. I don't want them to accuse me to come here. I'm coming here to prosecute our case, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the things within the CBA, which, again, you initially said that you have no problem with. So what stops that from going into effect immediately? If we're saying, look, I mean, because we saw the statement and the fellow said, look, we're ready to go back to work even today, but will you look at some of these things? So if the CBA, for example, there's no problem with that, what's wrong with putting that into effect and letting them go back to work as you discuss some of these other things?
Okay.
Which they did, which again, I'm just going to come back and reiterate, they did say as well, look, even if you tell us today that we are ready to look at some of these things, let us have a conversation, we're ready to go back to work.
I think if you read the statements that I have made, the Ministry of Transport has made, and the Ministry of Labour has made, we have given concessions. I have said it earlier, the pilot unions have communicated to their members, I've seen that communication, saying that we have conceded to 90% of their demands. Okay, and in fact, we've even, in our proposal, we've said, here is a framework that we want to put into place so that we can address some of the issues that you are raising. But they have said no. They have come back to the original demand, one of which is get rid of the CEO. Okay?
What did you do to them?
I wish I knew. I mean, I wish I knew.
He's against the CBA. I mean, if I were a unionist.
No, I'm not against the CBA, actually. Let me say that. I'm just saying, can we look at the CBA to see what can make it more productive? That's all I'm saying. Okay? I'm not saying I'm not against the CBA. I mean, they have a right to have a collective bargain agreement. All workers have a right to. But I'm saying, and we can work together, right? Or you take this here, put it here. No. For the sake of the airline. The airline has to get out of where we are today. And we have put together measures to do that. So it's a back and forth. It's a give and take. It's a good faith discussion. But if you come to a negotiating table and you're saying it's my way or the highway, you will never make progress. And that is where the problem is. The CALPA union officials have come to the table with a list of demands and they have not moved.
So is there some give on your side?
Oh, yes.
Are you loosening of this tether to say that, okay, guys, we can actually do this? Is this being communicated to them and they've made do they have an understanding of exactly what you're saying, or is this shrouded in some kind of ambiguity when it says, okay, well, we could... Are you very clear on what we can do for folks to go back to work today, 7th of November, Monday?
No, let's say this to you. Maybe I'm not believable, okay? Because I'm an interested party. But okay, don't believe me. Read the Ministry of Transport and Labour, because they sat in the room and listened to how much we were giving and how much belligerent the CALPA officials were. Listen to them. Don't believe me, but okay, believe the Ministry of Transport, because they were arbiters. They were trying to break the impulse. I'll give you an example. On Saturday, or actually I should say Sunday, we slept, me and my team slept at 2 a.m. Trying to put together a return to work formula, so they had sent us their demands, which again, like I said, they have never changed. So we put together a proposal, and through the ministry, we sent it to CALPA. They went back to the original demands. I mean, it's very difficult. To be honest, it's very difficult for me. And which begs the question, what exactly is the intention of this strike?
Are you addressing that original demand of theirs? Because probably they keep coming back on that original demand, because everything else you're addressing is not what they're asking for.
No, the original
If,
demands,
for example, the issue number one, like I've seen in their statements, the staff provident fund.
Yes.
Issue number two is the staff that you're putting under disciplinary action. Issue number three is looking at the management, CEO plus chief pilot plus others, all right? And those others, and then the full implementation of the CBA.
Okay.
Have you dealt with the staff provident fund? Have you looked at the disciplinary issues?
Let me answer them in brief, because I know we also don't have a lot of time. Start with the staff provident fund. Okay. First of all, that matter is in court. Okay, so I need to be careful how I'm responding to it. Staff provident fund, okay, they have asked for us to implement it immediately. We've told them we can implement it immediately, but it will compromise your deferred pay. Remember, I tried to explain the deferred pay.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it is within the bounds of affordability. We are not saying no. Every worker in Kenya Airways has a right to provident fund. Okay? So, yes, we can, but it will have to compromise on profitability. And let me say this as well. Remember the other stakeholders in Kenya Airways. We have another 3,400 employees. The other 3,400 employees are telling us, no, we want to continue with the deferred pay until you finish, and then you open the provident fund. So there's a difference of what is needed. So we've given that proposal.
Okay.
We've even given 2 other proposals. Or we could do this, or we could do that. Okay. So that has been addressed.
Okay.
Okay. They asked us to back pay to July, and we're telling them it is going to be too burdensome on the company. We cannot afford it. Okay. So that is one. Victimization. Those 4. Okay. Every employee, including myself, we have got to subject to ourselves to the rules of the company. I'll say this, and I also don't want to talk in detail about this, but 2 of those people that they're saying we victimize, okay, they're not fit to fly as pilots. We call it fit in terms either mentally, or they failed their test and so on. They're not fit to fly as pilots.
They don't meet the standards that are set.
Yes, and we took them through a process where CALPA was involved. We took them through a process. Now, how are you asking us to bring back people who are not fit to fly?
I mean, how? They were not fit then. There's no remedying process where they can now be...
Can it be reviewed?
Yes, they can be regurgitated and they can now become fit.
Okay, and on this particular matter, I'm guided by my safety office, okay, because this is an important thing for safety of an airline. When you bring in a pilot, you need to make sure that you've covered the safety element. Yeah. And as far as my safety department has advised, is that it is not advisable to bring them back.
When you're burning the midnight oil on Saturday and Sunday, what was your proposal on this particular matter?
No, we said on this one, we unfortunately we can. Oh, so there are 4.
Yeah.
Okay. On one of them, we said, yeah, you can bring them back. All we need for that one is clearance from the regulator, and we'll bring them back even tomorrow.
Okay.
But on the other 3,
the Civil Aviation Authority.
Yes, Civil Aviation Authority. Sorry, yeah, Civil Aviation Authority.
The other 3.
The other 3, 2 of them are unfit, so unfortunately we can't do. One of them was taken through a disciplinary process, including a High Court ruling. So we unfortunately cannot do anything about it. Okay, we can go blow by blow, but it will take a long time. All I'm trying to demonstrate is that of the 4 items, the only one we told them is outside their remit is is asking, trying to decide who should be CEO and who should be manager for this. That one we will not even entertain.
Alan, let me just ask, this safety team that you have, who is it comprised of? Who are the people who are in the, and what is their qualification? What is it that they have that makes them amply able to be in charge of the safety elements of
No, they are trained. They are trained. I mean, and everybody actually who is doing, like I have got a training as well on safety and so on. So the safety department is headed by a director of safety who is trained, as in fact he is a pilot himself. Then the other people there.
That is the question. You've answered my question. So essentially, there are pilots within that particular safety department.
Yes, pilots, cabin crew, people who are trained.
So people who essentially are part and parcel of the industry.
Yes.
People who have served in the industry.
Yes.
People who understand how the industry works.
Correct.
Okay. Now this one, you can defer the question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think that some of these leaders of the pilots union have a certain sense of entitlement? Because that's what I'm hearing. Because everything you've been saying, I'm thinking, wait, but how much do you expect someone to give? I mean, there seems to be reason here, but they keep insisting. So the only thing that it points to is an entitlement. Because we are pilots, we are demanding, and you need to listen to us because we are pilots. And when we speak as pilots, you must do what we say because we are pilots.
And you can't fly the plane.
And you can't fly the plane yourself. We know you can't fly it, but we are the one. This is what I'm hearing.
You know, you're putting me in a difficult situation.
Yes, I know I am. That's why I said you can defer the question. You don't have to answer it.
But you know, to be honest, some of the comments that the pilot officials have made are really unfortunate. You know, like some of the ones you've just said yourself. You know, we're the ones who fly the plane. This airline cannot fly without us. Let's see what they will do without us. You know, those kinds of things. Everybody in the airline is important. Even the groomer, the person who cleans the aircraft, is just as important. The people who take care.
They're not pilots.
Final question, Alan.
And just, I want to say this. Let me. I mentioned earlier, kind of in passing, but I just want to insist on this point. There are people, the 3,800 employees, including the pilots, have sacrificed a lot. I get it. Okay? But everybody has sacrificed. We would call them non-pilot staff. We've explained to them, particularly about the Provident Fund. They have understood. My plea is, why then can't the CALPA officials understand? It is about affordability. It's not about denying them. It's about affordability. That's all it is about.
It's where you are right now.
Yeah.
In about 30 or 40 seconds, Alan, just tell us, what is the management doing or planning to do over the next couple of days to resolve this issue?
Yeah. So we have made our pleas. Fortunately, I have seen a few pilots are returning to work, which is the right thing to do. And I'm urging them to do it quickly because the window of opportunity is closing. Yeah. So they need to come back very quickly to work. Let us bring our airline back to where it's supposed to be. We were doing well. Let us try and remove the embarrassment that we are seeing at the airport, fly these people out. The window of even having further discussions is actually also closing. Yeah, because at some point we have to get back to normalcy. And I have to say they have disobeyed a court order, and I think that has its consequences.
Thank you. Alan Kilavuka is the Group Managing Director and CEO of Kenya Airways, talking about the impasse with Kenya Airways and the pilots. Keep it here for more conversations. Good morning, it's 8 a.m.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. 17 Kenya Airways flights are back in operation as KQ continues to seek solutions to the ongoing strike by pilots. KQ CEO Alan Kilavuka, in an interview with SpiceFM, says that more pilots continue to call in wanting to resume services, adding that the strike is unlawful.
All pilots, including manager pilots, are members of CALPA. So, yes, indeed, large majority of those people who are flying those are managers, but we also have members of CALPA who are not managers who are also helping us and doing the patriotic thing of trying to help us evacuate a lot of the stranded passengers here.
How many people are stranded at JKIA?
It is difficult to tell because they keep coming, increasing and decreasing, but as at yesterday, we had 500 guests in various hotels. I estimate there's probably another 100 or so who are stuck at the airport. So if you look at the entire network, we have impacted about 12,000 passengers. So across the network, those ones who wanted to come, those ones who wanted to leave, and so on and so forth.
On the issues the pilots have raised, Kilavuka says that the grievances have issues touching on the CBA and other issues, but which were never exhausted at the negotiating table to warrant a strike.
I think it's important for me to state the facts. The pilot union or pilot association has raised several elements. They have raised several grievances, actually 4, in buckets of 4. Some of those elements relate to the CBA, so that is completely true. Some of them have absolutely nothing to do with the CBA. For example, their demand that I exit the organization has nothing to do with the CBA. So they raised grievances sometime this month. Initially, first of all, we have been having discussions around these elements, okay, trying to get a solution and so on and so forth. But at some point, they disagreed. They were not happy with my negotiating team. So what did they do? They wrote a strike notice, 14-day strike notice. Okay. So I wrote back through the ministry and said, we have not exhausted the dispute resolution mechanism. So there was no point at that point to go on strike. Let's talk about it. And the ministry said, yes, that's true. They invited us to have a discussion around those elements.
In the meantime, passengers continue to demand for answers from KQ, with many expressing their frustration due to both the time and poor communication from the company.
I've reached out to Kenya Airways via WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, email, and no response.
Kenya Airways offices are not even available to deal with passengers. None of the services respond to any kind of query. So all the different numbers and ways in which you communicate with KQ, and which they tell us as customers in their own press release to communicate, 0. All day yesterday, all day today, Facebook, all you get is the bot, no reply. You try and call the numbers, they're just busy. You don't get through to anything. You just get a recording. You send emails, you're lucky if you even get an acknowledgement of received, far less a response.
We continue to follow up on the developments from JKIA, even as we hope that these problem gets a solution soonest possible. Now, President William Ruto is in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt for the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, that is COP27. Ruto is leading the Kenyan delegation to Egypt and will also be the leader of African continent's heads of state in the summit, which brings together more than 130 heads of state from around the globe. Ruto will deliver 2 statements, one for Kenya and another for Africa, to over 40,000 delegates. Earlier, the UN headquarters in New York, Ruto insisted on the need to protect the environment and that nations must do everything possible to pledge funds that will go into saving the environment.
Our pastoralist communities have experienced scarcity of pasture due to prolonged drought, the worst in 40 years, and 3 years of absolute rain failure. As a result, we have lost 2.5 million heads of livestock owing to this very severe drought. Rising food prices have made an already bad situation worse. Elsewhere, communities in rural and urban areas across the country are equally struggling under the weight of high food prices and shortage of water. Without a doubt, climate change is complicating our roadmap towards socio-economic transformation and achievement of sustainable development goals.
The 27th Conference of Parties on Climate Change was officially opened by the COP27 President and Egypt's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Shami Shukri, at the Blue Zone in the green city of Sharm el-Sheikh. The rescue operations from a precision air flight that plunged into Lake Victoria, Tanzania, continue, according to the airline. The flight that crashed landed while approaching Bukoba Airport had 39 passengers on board, including 38 adults and 1 infant. To continue to follow up on that rescue operations as well, more in a subsequent news bulletin. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Busy traffic on Langata Road this morning, and we're looking at going out into the city pretty heavy as you hit Aerodrome and trying to get then onto Uhuru Highway towards the Haile Selassie roundabout. And it's going to be busy. Haile Selassie in and outbound is coming off of Kamkunji and also off Gong Road on the other side of things. A really busy morning that we saw earlier. It is also drizzling, so the roads are slippery and folks are hanging out waiting for that to end. On Jogo Road, it's heavy. Lunga Lunga is doing the same. We're looking at Likoni, then spilling over to the interchange on Mombasa Road. Now, whatever is happening on Juja Road is not fun this morning. In and outbound traffic is heavy. We're looking at the same thing replicating on the Thika Superhighway and then onto Kiambu Road, which today is well into the belly of Ridgeways. Ruaka coming off then United Nations Avenue and spilling over to Limuru Road. I do not know what's happening on the Red Hill Link Road, which should have been your option to run away from the traffic on Waiaki Way, but that is absolutely packed. Kitusuru is a mess completely. It's that manic Monday. We didn't expect it, but that's what's going on. Let's know what's going on where you are. If you find a good route that folks can use this morning to get away from madness that's on the roads, let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The only way
87 minutes after 8. Good morning on the 7th day of November 2022. Happy Monday. If you're just joining us, welcome to the third hour of The Situation Room today. We're still live on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, and on Facebook and YouTube. We have another guest in the studio. He is a politician, the Honorable Omingo Magara. Before we welcome him, let him hear the day's proverb. CT?
Yes, we are in the country of Mauritania.
Mauritania.
Northwest part of Africa.
Not Mauritius.
Mauritius is on the east coast. This one is the other side, west. Northwest, really. Okay. A donkey which goes to grow horns returns with the ears cut off.
A donkey which goes to grow horns.
Yes.
Returns with its ears cut off.
Yes.
Hey.
Tafakari hayo.
Tafakari hayo. You know the president of this country, Mauritania? The president is called Mohammed or Sheikh Mohammed Ahmed Ould Ghazouani.
Okay. So
Mohammed or Sheikh Mohammed Ahmed Ould Ghazouani.
Does he
also known as Ghazouani and Ould Ghazouani?
All right. Does he have a preferred name? Is there a name that he'd rather we use?
Because, like Gilbert?
Yes. Something like Jimmy.
Mohammed.
Or Moha.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mohammed or Sheikh Mohammed Ahmed Ould Ghazouani.
Yes.
Yes.
His Excellency.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the name. The Honorable Omingo Magara, good morning.
Morning.
Good to have you in the Situation Room.
First time to be here, and I'm glad to be.
Yes.
I hope I'm not rusty enough to take the challenges and, of course, the attempt to respond to issues that I'm going to raise. But take it easy because age is also catching up with us. So
age umesema,
yeah.
Sawa.
Okay. Essentially, what Mheshimiwa is telling us, this is now old wine, begging you not to drink it.
Begging you not to drink it.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa, you're a former member of parliament, representing the people of South Mugirango. You're also a former chairperson of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Kenya. And we've had various conversations with the CMD Kenya on what CMD does, bringing together multi-parties, various political parties, and championing the cause for democracy in the country. And we want to talk about that. Is there democracy and integrity in political parties in this country? In the last election, you were a candidate.
Yes.
Why were you not?
I was a candidate of Senator Kisi County.
Uh-huh.
the Jubilee Party. But first and foremost, let me say, talk about democracy. Whether you ask, the very important why we're here is to break down that democracy and integrity within the political parties. And I do remember that as things change, they still remain the same, unfortunately. I'd like giving an analogy of where we really fought to get multipartyism and have our space to express ourselves. In fact, people lost lives. We have, widows who were made widow because their husbands were killed during that struggle, orphan children and all. But later in the years, when after with the promulgation of the Constitution, there was an issue of trying to make Kenya two or three party state. The efforts were made, and remember, last year we were together in CMD, where people voluntarily folded their political parties. Now, that gave me a bit of a painful experience because I was then party leader of People's Democratic Party, and there were persuasions of us folding. What am I saying? Initially, at independence, people were agitating to be afraid. Today, as we speak, people are actually struggling to go to Europe for a self-enslavement in terms of looking for greener pastures. We actually volunteered ourselves to go to the chopping block and give out a particular right. But bringing out back home democracy in political parties, it can only be independent and there will be democracy integrity if we were faithful to the Political Parties Act of 2012, where political parties were trying to be detached from individuals. More often than not, our political space is occupied by political leaders who actually own the political parties. And indeed, we can't run away from it. Remember, if you mention a political party, you can actually trace its domicile and the roots where it comes from, and the big man ahead of it. So the motive of that political parties act, which was supposed to bring integrity, independence, and public audit on political parties, was to enable national coffers fund political parties, detach it to one-man show, and bring public accountability. That act was actually they was amended, but now luckily again we are bringing it back to share.
It's
revenues.
Still the same.
Yeah,
about how it's shared. It sounds when people would look at this, they say, all right, so an individual such as Omingo Magara forms a political party, registers a political party, brings in some people and says this is our political party, and everybody knows the supremo of that party is going to be Omingo Magara. But with that whole thing of bringing, the law to parliament and making sure that political parties, in the name of supporting our nascent democracy, we shall then finance political parties from the state coffers, is basically removing that burden of running a party from
an individual,
the supremo, but the supremo will still remain as a supremo. So it's basically the supremo just going through the back door and saying, I am the party, I have brought people to parliament. Because of the number of people I've brought to parliament, our party is going to get money and the party will then now run its operations. But everybody knows, even the executive director of the party knows, I am the owner of the party. I'm the one who says who sits in the elections board. I'm the one who says when we are going to hold elections, if at all. And political parties in this country do not hold elections. What do you say?
No, truly, the intention was right, and that's why they were trying to put it across like we need to make our party look national. Look national. Yeah. Not be national. There's a difference between looking national by putting names of Kamau, Odhiambo, Lima, look national, but not be national. And it's actually the cause of this is our negative ethnicity and the balkanization of our country on tribal lines. We can't run away from it. To be honest with you, we're still tribal. Until that cancer of holding on and saying, yes, my party, my people, my region, my supremo, no matter how much money comes in, we shall come afraid again and get back money to our cover. Say, please, pull as many more votes as possible to get this national share to our side with our system, our arrangement, and our nomination policies that favor us as opposed to them.
So, Mheshimiwa, as you look at it now, you're talking about it's a cancer that we cannot run away from, this negative ethnicity that you speak of. But at the same time, we're trying to look at the multiplicity of options that multi-party democracy brings, isn't it? But then there's this thing that's stopping it from happening. I mean, don't even get me started on the fact that political parties in this country are not for the ideology, they're for the character. But then, isn't there an argument then for a one-party state? If we cannot run away from this tribal issue that still divides, even on those party lines, right? Then those who speak of having one party, since we're all in this thing, don't they have a case then for argument?
Ideally, it was tried. And I can tell you, the moment we said we wanted to have a Jubilee in 2013, still, those forces within that Jubilee party deliberately cannibalized it to make sure it disintegrates and we start from zero. I can tell you, it's a zero-sum game. It has to do with the generational change and the change of our attitude and being honest with ourselves. You know, have you not had people not caring how they get to leadership? It doesn't matter how many die, but I want to be in that space. Again, it's a moral issue. We need to start cultivating the nationhood in our CBC curriculum, for example. I do know for a fact some of us who have been here long enough are the ones who are causing the cancer to still spiral on again. So we need to, again, exit that culture of people believing that's where they belong and usher in. The other challenge we have refused deliberately to nurture anybody else to come after us, mentoring leadership. Because if you mentor them, you feel like you are threatened. And that's why things remain the same, because the same Magara you saw in 19 sit down, the same Magara you see today. I remember in Parliament, one of my colleagues told me that I don't care what you think. My party is XYZ. Not the name of the party. My party is the party. His party is not the name of the party. My party is the person. So it doesn't matter what he says. He tells me to jump. He asks me how I. So let me say this: it goes beyond the mentioning, but changing our attitude and perhaps inculcating a sense of nationhood, which will take a generation. Unfortunately, we also Christianized the bad things, bad habits. You find somebody stolen money. Truly, ameiba kabisa, hell, is stolen. That's the guy you even stop preaching in church and ask him to give donations. It matters less how much, which routes he passed to make that money. His boots will be soiled by blood up to knee high. But that's the guy you give glory in the church and say amen. Amen means go and kill more and bring to church.
Bring more.
But you know the negative ethnicity, this culture of impunity, the thinking, when we talk about them, we are talking about the manifestations of it, because that's what we see. Impunity, you see, like if you look at the headlines today of The Nation and just the number of individuals whom counties paid who didn't exist, it speaks to the same thing. But how can something be what this is to the point where it has taken root and is considered a norm if people do not support it? How do you get to a point where, for instance, as you say, someone whose acquisition of wealth is at the very least dubious, why are they glorified? How then do you get to a point where it is accepted that during an election it is normal for people to be bribed? So the discussion is not the bribery, but is the amount that somebody is willing to offer. This normalization, in your view, does it speak of a hopelessness, a state of hopelessness that we've arrived at and we've entrenched, so that there's no hope in anything better, so we accept what we have and move along with it? Or is it a coping mechanism?
Good question. Frankly speaking, if you, again, we're back at normalized and Christian, what is wrong? And the cost of punishing graft is zero. In fact, you even pay. They say you better, steal a lot and put some to bribe your way through to come out of the mess. So the problem here is basically having to accept that after all, even if I have to fight, I'm alone in this thing. So, and therefore, why don't I join them? Because the bandwagon. The other thing is, as I said, the cost, the penalties and the pain of punishing corruption is actually zero. You are glorified, as I said. Number two, it is not true that we are in a state of hopelessness. We have glorified and given a lot of trust to our political leadership. We need a serious, kind of a surgery on our governance system. And that will start with the leadership of this country. And how I pray, we have someone like Magufuli who says what is and punishes as is. Now the problem is, if you elect me on the premise of having to bribe, can you imagine, City Muga, I spent close to 2 billion shillings being a governor of an ex-county. In my accounting field, City, you require to do business because one time somebody spent about 5 million shillings when the Raila came to Kisii. 5 million shillings. If your average spending a day is 5 million shillings, it means you've
just on a single visit.
Single day. You have disposable income of 5 million. It means you would have bought something for maybe 5 million, you have sold it for 10 million, you have disposable income of 5 to spend.
May I ask you, for what? This 5 million that we're talking about being spent in a day, what is it for?
Bribing, mobilizing, carrying.
For somebody to visit the county in order for what to happen?
Yes, now, because I need
it's
that
called
space.
mobilization.
Mobilization to pull down Latif so that I'm elevated. So you actually buy a crowd who come to cheer you and say, this is the big boy in town, right? For example. Now, what I'm trying to build up this, if you do that in a day, it means you can spend up to 2 billion Kenya shillings in a year. Or in a year to spend. It means your 20% margin, which you've created wealth creation that has given you a surplus of 2 billion, you must have sold goods worth 10 billion after buying goods for 8 billion. So there's only Safaricom that can do that. And that's an individual doing, and that's a pan in office. You're expecting not to pay ghost workers to bring back that money. That's why the cancer is, and it must start with a political decision. It is with us politicians, and I think the buck stops with us. And
how would the politician benefit? I mean, yes, we are seeking to ask a situation where the political leadership, presents itself as not only honest, but accountable. And yet, if I look at the thinking and if I look at people who've been in the position you are in, they want to follow the same path that other politicians before them have, where you are the big person, and you are the person who has all the resources, you are the person to whom people go to when they have a problem. Even when you've had situations where MPs have CDF, governors have the funds that come to counties, and you would think these would mark the beginning of changes in the people's lives, what they seem to prefer is the very thing that you are saying is abhorrent. They prefer to pilfer, they prefer to misappropriate, and the excuse that people demand. Now, I'm asking the question that I asked again. You see, how do you get people to move away from a situation and a system that clearly serves the interest of a few and with guarantee will damn the majority? Because a system like this one here, the one we are talking about, will never benefit the masses.
Correct. Sitting Muga, we need some radical surgery, painful as it may be, but who is going to bail the cat? This is where the challenge is, because they say if it doesn't matter how honest you want to be, everybody else is not. So we need somebody to bail the cat, and we must have some serious, painful decisions, not from any small person out there. Leadership that respects institutions and it punishes, penalizes those who appeal for this.
No, it will have to come from down there. Those of you at the top are the ones who are benefiting from all this, are the ones who are perpetuating this. You're the ones who do these things. You're the ones who basically just schemed. You have devised a very beautiful scheme. You've called it multipartyism and democracy and, entrenching democracy in this country. And you've come with the Political Parties Act and Register of Political Parties and all these other institutions. And basically, if we go by what you've just said, it is a scheme to steal from the public and usurp power and authority from the public. Let me explain. So a leader of a political party, like we've just said, forms a party and they rally people around them. This is a popular person on the ground, and so they form a political party. They get into an election. They are taking money from candidates. That's financing them. Those candidates are popular enough to get elected, or the leader is popular enough to get the candidates elected in his name. The people go to parliament. When they go to parliament, those people have to pay money to the party. Is it 10,000, 100,000 shillings every month, whatever amount, every month as membership fee for the party. The government, the state rather, pays money to this political party to run operations. So this person, the Supremo, has money to keep dishing around, and they continue doing the same. They come back to the people and they do the same. They use their influence in the counties. They do the same to get money. So it's a scheme that has been employed very well by the people in top leadership. And for it to change, it will not come from those people in top leadership. They'll keep amending the Political Parties Act. They'll amend all other laws, Leadership and Integrity Act, Public Officer Ethics Act. All those things will be amended, but never to touch them. So if there's anything to change, Mheshimiwa, I put it to you, it will come from somebody who is not on Omingo Magara.
No. We are all at the center of this. But this problem must start somewhere to be fixed. But let me start from a fairly an abstract manner. The church is responsible here. You media are responsible, because if people are not informed, although, let me tell you, and my confession over the last elections, I had a wonderful proposal on how to do oversight on counties. A wonderful proposal on how to involve our people in budget making process, so they don't go to the governor with a begging bowl, please give me a road. It is stupid. It is nonsense. It's primitive. That you are the one to appropriate resources as an MCA or National Assembly, then you wait for the president to come and dish out what legitimately you gave him to spend. You're the one.
Yeah.
It never made sense. Those ones who paid, who had stolen a bit of the money, through whichever means, they were the big boys who are in office today. Now, if we fail at the national level in terms of national leadership, I would want we have political awareness of our people. And Eric, it does not start, if they can't do it out there, these people here who have donated the powers to us can act. But will they act if they have no information? Will they act if their stomachs are hungry? And some policies we have made are deliberately made to impoverish people to be subservient to us. As I walk there, they see me as the man carrying the goodies for me, and they can't want to offend me. You less sweets, less poison with the sweetness, a sweetener, and you kill people. And where we are today is lack of our sincerity as leadership, and we do not mean well for what we say. We have always died to our people. And what is critical today as we speak, the media, please help if you can by educating our people. But again, an angry man, an stomach person cannot hear you no matter what kind of sweet voice you present to them. And the only thing we need to do again, if we had it then, policies which are there in place, and we have wonderful documents propelled in terms of recovery of education sector, agriculture sector, innovation, research and technology, where we can even have proper production, high yield from our land. If we give people that empowerment and have them, nutritioned, they can rest, they can sleep under a comfortable roof, then they can make independent decisions. So this is a chain we must break. Well, that's why I thought that the easiest way, and British must also help me on this, it must start with those ones who have power now and crack the whip. and it's possible it can be done. Because if the president, for example, William Samuel Ruto, who's our colleague, he worked. I remember when I was a senior minister in the Ministry of Trade, and there was a minister for agriculture. Somehow things worked very well, to be honest. If you take that model of production and they say now, even in Malaysia, by the way, I was in Malaysia, they allow you 5% of mobilization and they call it facilitation. That's corruption, man. You can eat 5. If you eat more than 5, you are dead. So they have opened a window of at least you got in your quotations, in terms of lobbying, they call it lobbying fees.
You can play around the 5%.
5%. Beyond 5%, you are dead. And by the way, if I were president, that I am not, of course, if I wanted to eat nicely, I'll make sure everybody is got money and everybody is fat. Then whatever flows that comes into a gut, you can also now eat bigger. But remember, people are also, they can even pray for you because prayers also because
they work. They work.
Let's take a break. It's 8:30.
I need to take the Malaysia example beyond
a bit further. Yes. Yeah. The Honorable Omingo Magara is the former Member of Parliament for South Mugirango. He was a candidate for the Kisii senatorial race. And he's also a former chairman of the Center for the immediate former chairman of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy in Kenya. We are talking about the political parties, their democracy and integrity in political parties in Kenya. TheRoom.com. Have you visited TheRoom.com? Are you looking for people to hire? Mheshimiwa, if you're looking for some of the best tech talent, if you're looking for a virtual assistant, web developer for your businesses, you're looking for a cloud developer, for software engineers, the best place to go to is TheRoom.com because these are trained and very well vetted, skilled, rigorously vetted and handpicked tech talent just for you. So you go to TheRoom.com. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Everyone remembers the ambition they first had when they started their business.
A business holds promise. An idea could blow up and change lives anywhere on the planet. But the best idea is not worth much if it can't be executed by a solid team. Introducing The Room, the talent solution that provides a global network of tech talent, relationships, and resources dedicated to drive growth and innovation in your business. Hire tech talent and pick from qualified software engineers, cloud developers, web developers, and data analysts, all vetted and trained to Silicon Valley standards. The way we work has changed, and subsequently, so should the way we hire. Visit TheRoom.com today and discover how we can improve your business.
If I look at the Premier League table, Manchester City is on top. Arsenal, number 2 in the table. Absolutely. How did Brentford get to number 3 in the Premier League table? They beat us like Burkenge.
Sugar and spice.
What's your love language, French?
My love language is I want to be left alone.
What can't you compromise on?
Quality time and acts of service. Words of affirmation tutapata hata kanisani.
We do this.
17 and light rain continues in Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 16. It's 13 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 24. We'll see lows of 12 and it's cloudy at 15 in Nyeri, highs of 23. 24 will be the high in sunny Eldoret at 14, coming down to lows of 13. Mostly cloudy conditions at 26 in Mombasa, highs of 30 and lows of 24. We'll see light rain in some parts of Malindi 4 now at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 25. Looking into Kisumu, it's raining at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 19, and we'll see highs of 26 in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 19, coming down to lows of 15. Rain showers in Kampala continue, highs of 25 and lows of 17, and we'll see highs of 31 in a sunny Dar es Salaam, currently at 26. It's 15 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 20 and lows of 14, and Lagos is clear at 26, going to highs of 32 and lows of 25. 32 will also be the high in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 23. It's a really heavy traffic morning today. We're looking at traffic still pretty heavy in most parts of the city, looking at the northern bypass, which folks are trying to use to get away from the madness that is coming off of Kitisuru. That's really heavy today. Not quite sure what's causing that, but it doesn't look good. Your Red Hill Link Road, which should have been your escape route, is also pretty busy as well, coming out towards Limuru Road. All right, looking at Thika Superhighway coming into the city, looks a little bit better now. And looking at traffic just past Survey heading into the city around Muranga Road. Looking at Uhuru Highway coming off of Nyayo Stadium through and through into the city out towards Westlands, still continues to be pretty busy. We're looking at 8:30. Take a look at what happens around 9 o'clock. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice and everything nice. All right. Okay. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Integrity in our political parties, the democracy really in our political parties being espoused by the political parties. Former chairman of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Omingo Magara, is still here with us. Omingo, you are chair of the CMD, which brings together political parties to discuss how to deepen and entrench accountability, democracy within the party, within all political parties in the country. And the way I'm hearing you speak today, you sound like you're just saying, you know what, we are a long way to go before we achieve what we set out to achieve. Why? What did you do as chairman of CMD? As CMD, what is it that you do to make sure that we are heading down the right path? And what has been the hindrance or stumbling block?
No, but Eric, remember during the 2013 elections, we had challenges of people trying to form a political party in 2017, which some of us resisted that kind of vice, and we said, you better die standing than live long on your knees, because you are chairman of multi-party democracy and you form political parties, that you ain't actually preaching, standing true to what your calling is at that center. Now, CMD essentially was to bring in political parties where there are disagreements. We discuss and engage on issue-oriented politics, which we tried in 2017. It worked because we kept preaching that it doesn't matter who gets in there, but indeed, we agree on issue, and you challenge me intellectually and you win, then we succeed, all of us. On that bit, we succeeded. But we were let down and still let down by the ideologies of political parties that mean nothing. In fact, all political parties are copy and paste, and I must confess. Not one that has...
Including your former party, PDP.
It's like a tailor-made thing. You copy and...
You only change a few things here
and change the name of the head and the logo. And things happen. So because then you don't mean what you say. That's the reason why you realize NAC, our ruling party, didn't even have an MCA after Kibaki left. Jubilee performed it dismally after this, for a government party. What does it tell you? Zero, it's founded on zero principles, loyalty, zero reward to the diet of political parties. There's no ideologies. What happens therefore is, who is closer to me? My brother should be nominated to X, my sister, whatever. It makes zero sense. So then the commitment to a political party fails. In 2007, we almost got there. When ODM was being formed, we had ODM and I don't remember which other side was that. TNA
207 PNU.
Yes, PNU. You would feel like we are Democrats and Republicans. And I remember telling Baba, my party at that time, Captain, if we nurture and reward Lord this political party, we shall stand the test of time. What happens? When we get into the table, then it becomes not our party, but my party. People start flying out because then you get no space. If you raise matters of concern to the political party in terms of the structures which you have built, you are called a traitor and a mole. You actually ate both. Then men in black come in, you shaped out and everything else. So we do not have ideologies that carry us from generation to generation. And that
Can we get
and by the way, let me see it finish
back to
this.
my question,
Yes,
Mheshimiwa, because I'm asking now from the point of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy,
Yes.
which is the one body that should be pointing political parties towards the true north. Can we really get there? From your interactions with these parties?
Far from it. The ideologies are different. Our motivations of being there are different. It's only, as you said earlier, what is in there for me and my community and my tribe. And as I said, it's going to be a generational thing, but I can also tell you, it must start somewhere. I don't know where to start, but help me. If Magara Madai said, if that pigeon would drop at least a drop of water in a burning bush consistently, that bush, the fire would be extinct. It doesn't matter how small it starts, but it must start somewhere. My worry is, all of us should not start folding our hands and keep talking about it. I have been talking about governance everywhere I go and talk about governance. They say, we don't need governance. That's why people are saying these days wash is all over in this country. People want to take shortcuts. Young people from university, my brother, wants to drive a V8. I did not. I had a Datsun 120. Why after 10 years in my employment? But today somebody wants to do a tender deal, and we are encouraging them to do it. You're creating that space. People don't want to work. They want to sit somewhere under petrol station without an office, and they just exchange papers. Then there's moja, and you are done. How can the economy grow? How do we enrich and encourage our young people to be more responsible citizens? Because, again, it has politicians. When you get there, a quick one, you have a V8 with the 10 chase cars around you. People say that's a fashionable thing to do. And now that hopelessness comes in because the people are copying what is good. And even if it was done in a rotten way, it is actually adored and worshipped.
But if we're looking at the people who are coming up, if we're looking at future leadership, look at the examples that they've been given. And this is the question that he's asking. Look at the examples that they've been given. Everybody, with exemption to nobody. Look at the examples they have been given about those who are in positions of leadership, national leadership. And those who are sitting in national leadership today, say for really, exempting none. What examples are being left for these future leaders that we keep speaking about? Coming into this, whether it's multi-party democracy, whatever will be the modus for or government, state, national operation, who do they have as examples? And even if the media were to teach, upon what are we teaching? And that's why for me, unless there is a complete removal of when the surgeon is going for surgery, they do not say, oh, how about we remove half of this tumor and see what happens later? No. It's the whole thing in order for you to start again. Is that not what we're talking about? We're talking about teaching children.
All of them.
Yeah, we're talking about teaching children at school. But upon what foundation? What are we saying here, really? Can we build a house on a weak foundation?
You are actually almost agreeing with what I said in terms of radical, painful decisions done by one who has a political space and the mighty and the instruments to do so by cracking a whip. First, respect institutions. Give them, empower them. Crack the whip and make corruption expensive or painful. In fact, I'd rather recommend something serious. Firing squad. Fire a few without looking at the memorized affairs. If someone surely is... Let me ask you, really, Eric, you are told to supply oxygen to Kenya National Hospital. It's a moral issue, really. And I can tell you, madam, it is us leadership, and we take responsibility at the center of it. This is a political decision. Even this SGR thing we're talking about, if we keep quoting it in terms of economic structure, it won't work. It requires a political decision. And unless we do have that political decision, it is going to cost us quite a bit. But let me go back to what we're saying. If we had the leadership that has that, willingness to transform this country, it's doable. People say, my human right. But your human right ends where mine starts. I was given an example of Kenyatta Hospital. And you are here sitting and feeling so sweet that you're supposed to supply oxygen to Kenyatta National Hospital and you supply air. Consequently, infants who are born premature die. Then you're serving your children food and out of that kind of rubbish. and they take them to Harvard, they will not pass even exams, I can tell you for free. So it's supposed to self-introspect. What is it you're doing to yourself and your future generation? You know, God is real. He punishes up to the 4th generation. And that I will tell you, when I was a chairman of Public Accounts Committee, it's one time, guys were saying, hey, boss, people eat where they work. I said, man, I was elected from South Mogrango and I have a position of responsibility to speak on behalf of people and not chew on their behalf. Then I was not fashionable. Today, perhaps I would not have left Parliament. I would be buying my way through. But thank God, I'm still relevant and I'm still in good health. Because sometimes when you do some of these stupid things, you can't eat. You're worried every time. People must be told in perspective. You will be worried 24/7. You may start having your organs collapsing. You don't take milk, you don't take sugar, you don't take bafuta, you don't take salt. You eat food worse than a cow eats. So what are we saying? Can we preach this and tell these guys we need to change this country for
But who's going to do that then, Mheshimiwa? I mean,
political leaders.
You're speaking very well, right? And I just think about you as a person. You got into Parliament, your brother, you took up a seat after your brother had passed away. You got into Parliament, you got into politics. How many political parties have you moved in and out of in your political career so far? And can you sit here today and tell us honestly, the reason why, for example, I left ODM was this. The reason I formed PDP, because you formed the People's Democratic Party, PDP. You left it, you went to UDA. You left it, you went to Jubilee. Why?
Good question. I mean, as I talk about is sometimes you want to be an idealist, but in a wrong environment. I had my soul and blood in ODM. I did the best I could, but I realized that therefore there were more owners of ODM than Omingo Magara. The reasons I could explain to you, but basically it was in the by-election. One gentleman had lost in my petition by-election, so. Manyoha, who lost petition much later, they said he's going to get an automatic ticket. In my case, a national treasurer who lost my bid earlier, they said they don't see like they have a candidature in me, so they were trying to look around and see whether. Reason, I couldn't be compromised on the issue of Anglo-Leasing when I was chairman of Public Accounts Committee. They had to ship me out. I had to leave.
So it's because of your political stand?
My position.
All right.
I formed PDP, which I stuck to for all of that time. Apparently, again, in the seat I was running for, the county seat, it was humanly impossible to do like a lone race because I ran twice. You can't do the same thing several times, expect different results. I thought I would join a movement called UDA, and we moved in together. How wrong I was. Things were not the same again. The other is history. What am I saying? Is do we believe in what we say? Now, in terms of, creating a difference, because you see, again, I may not be perfect as it were, but there are things which sometimes people don't want to talk about. Do you know, Eric, that it's only during my chairmanship of Public Accounts Committee in Kenyan Parliament that we prosecuted 2 financial year accounts in 1 year to bring the accountability closer, or reducing the gap.
Yeah.
It's during my time that we opened up an Anglo-Leasing thing that had refused to die because we did it based on facts and not wish hunt. Anglo-Leasing will not die until those ones who wait the bad money all die or they're put to jail. Because on facts. Again, when you do that, you're a bad boy in town. You're butchered. In fact, my party then, Ford people, they were waiting for the term to end so they can come and remove. Because that time, PSC, you had to be a chair only 1 year. So they were an option of renewing it. They're counting days. When are these days going to end? So this
man can remove.
And I was chucked out the following year, zero committee. What am I saying? When I had my space, I did what I could. And I said, if I did what others could have done, perhaps I would still be in Parliament, but I wouldn't be the way I am.
You are describing a fairly hopeless situation, and I actually don't think it is really hopeless. Why? Perhaps we're going about seeking remedy the wrong way. perhaps instead of hoping and wishing that there'll be leaders who may come up and provide solutions, is not the way to go. Perhaps we should encourage the entire country and the economy to just collapse so that everything goes to the pits. Everything. So that there is nothing to talk about, there is nothing to eat, and everyone can see that we're not in the doldrums. This system that we have is not self-perpetuating. Think of a new generation. They come in, they do exactly, if not worse, than the people before them did. We had a time when the issue we had was plots being given to people who are favored by the government. Then people being given businesses. Then we got to a point where people would be given businesses and they didn't perform, and yet they were paid. Okay? We keep moving from bad to worse, where you are told the cost of building this railway was X number of billions of shillings, and then before you know it, a multiplicity of that same amount is now what it has cost us. And then it becomes the norm for everything to cost more. So this idea that a newer generation will come in and bring hope, I don't buy into it. There's nothing of that sort. The new generation will come in, they'll copy what they've seen before, and then they'll ferment their own idea of it, and it'll be infinitely worse. Perhaps, as again, I'm repeating, perhaps everything needs to go to hell first. The whole thing.
That's a bit radical.
Burn the whole thing.
No, let the thing just collapse completely. When it collapses completely, then we will be on an even keel. There'll be nothing like someone is benefit. There'll be nothing to steal anyway. So those who had chosen a career in thievery will have no career. Okay? So they have to start from the same point as everyone else.
They will still be eating city.
Yes.
Even when that thing is burnt to the ground. Look at those that you call failed states.
You know, Eric, you know why I'm saying this? I'm painting a dismal picture because how do people get to understand that what they are doing is harmful? Is when you reach the nth, when the harm is seen for what it is. Because if it isn't seen, like now we have all these governors who, it is mentioned, were paying ghost workers. Okay? It is not possible for such a thing to happen for the length of time these people were governors without them having a say or knowing. It is absolutely not possible. But what will happen? You see, this is the point. We have a judiciary that shone a great light into. I started believing that these things that we are seeing can actually work, and the judiciary can do what they are supposed to do. And they have been doing so. But they are also not totally free from this influence we are speaking of. We look at the police force. I'm simply saying, if the people whom we have elected and we've given the mandate to look after our interest, to make our laws and to even budget for us, if a new lot comes in and all we see is them doing the very things that will benefit them, I refuse to be dragged into this particular hellhole where all I'm seeing is hopelessness. It isn't all hopelessness.
Can I please interject, please?
Please, no, interject by all means.
Please, that's a bit trusting.
Why?
But let me say this.
Is anything in this country ever
I agree with you, Buga, that even those young people we are looking up to as change managers, I actually even worse. The young leaders today are actually worse. They stand for nothing. They can't even contribute anything in the house. So what is in there for me? It's even worse. But also, don't write it off like we have nothing to offer the political class. I want to take you back to.
Okay.
No, wait. Can I take you back? I want to take you back to.
I'm just returning the favor. Just as you asked me to. Yes. Let me also interject. And before you get to the point, tell me this one thing that this political class has done which is useful. This last parliament, just tell me, not two, one, which you can say has benefited the citizens of this country profoundly.
I am not competent. But I want to take you back this regime that has gone.
No. This one is the one I'm concerned about. Not this current parliament, the one just before them. Not your time.
He wants to talk about the one he's participated in.
No, we know what they did, and there are things that he has pointed out to which are true. It is this immediate former parliament That's why I asked one, not two things, just one thing which they did, and you say, this one has helped change the lives of the citizenry of this country. One.
I want to confess, I am not competent to say any one of it.
Yes.
Zero. But I want to take you back to the other previous.
All right.
The Kibaki regime. It's possible it can be done. Kibaki did what Kenyans expect them to do. Somehow.
Mheshimiwa, yes and no. Why it is yes and no, it's a mixed bag. The government that preceded the one of Kibaki's had very many things that didn't work for them, and yet there are very many things they did whose benefits we now enjoy.
Yes.
Okay? But the thing that government of Moi was symptomatic for is systems which had collapsed, literally, completely. Now, it wasn't very difficult for the Kibaki government to put in systems after all they had collapsed. There were changes which were positive, accepted. Now, the government that came after Kibaki's, what did they do with the systems, really?
Collapsed again.
Yes.
Now, I want to persuade you to give the current administration, with the kind of promises that they give them the bit of space.
Why must we give them space? I mean, I keep hearing this story. Why is it incumbent upon us to give them space? Space for what exactly?
Mheshimiwa, when people come to say, give me this position, it is not a matter of, and then when I get the position, I'm going to need some time and some wiggle room to be able to get it done. No, it is here you have this position for which you're paid, by the way. It is not free. It is not a good Samaritan. It is a paid position for which there are certain things that you must do. And the highest integrity then is required of you. The highest in terms of managerial skills and expertise is also required of you. So when we say give space, for what exactly? This is something that needs to be done and done now. This is the country that is living and breathing and pulsing every day, every moment, people over which livelihoods need to be protected. So what space exactly are we talking about here?
I'm not trying to be an advocate for the current administration, but remember, of course, there are issues in terms of the court cases and putting the systems in place, and I'm not the advocate, but I can't assess them as we speak now. I think that would be unfair because the minister has been appointed today, and you see, if you didn't want ex-minister in finance, you can't expect him to do your policies which maybe their heart is not in it. And remember, they didn't want him in the office, for example. And I am not saying I'm an advocate for you because the Kenya Kwanza administration, but I think to be honest, if you give them that 3 months, you can bring them to account.
Like City says, start counting from the day the PS is.
If you want to count, yes, from the day the PS, when everyone they want in place is in place, then I'll count 100 days. But it is not a question of whether we should give them space. They are in leadership. Okay? Now, do what you're supposed to do and tell us so that we can see. What is this space you're asking for? Are we in a position to prevent them from doing what they want to do? We are not. Are we in a position to waylay whatever? No. They have all the powers and they have the mandate. So, do what you're supposed to do and then let us see.
I want to let's pick one item of the campaign manifesto.
Yes.
And of course, I'm saying something like reducing the interest rates and empowering people to start productivity is a very useful thing. In fact, if that works, we can start seeing a spark of growth in the economy. For instance, if somebody says, I'm coming with a policy of a hustler fund, for example, you require some legislation in Parliament to have that operationalized. You need to have people trained to uptake of that fund because you also dish money into people's pockets. So I'm also a believer in structures because you don't then take 50 billion, go up, bring it out, give so and so. You give somebody in the office who did not believe in that hustler thing. So I would suggest we give them, at least from the point of the PSS, give them 100 days and we bring them to account. And of course, I'm 100. A very particular person, I'll raise it. I don't.
Mheshimiwa is asking us to give them something they already have.
We start counting. I think he's saying what you've been saying, City.
Yeah, from
the
point that PSS are appointed.
Let us see.
Start counting 100.
And bring me here.
Our time is up. The Honorable Omingo Magara, former chairman of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy and former MP for South Mugirango, former candidate for the Kisii senatorial race. Thank you very much for joining us. Yes, we'll bring you back here.
It's my pleasure.
We'll keep looking at what the government is doing and what our politicians
I'll
are
be doing
doing.
a track as well.
Very good.
Thank
Keep
you
it
so
here
much.
for more conversations. A very good morning to you, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. 17 Kenya Airways flights are back in air as KQ continues to seek solutions to the ongoing strike by pilots. KQ CEO Alan Kilevoka, in an interview with SpiceFM, says more pilots continue to call in wanting to resume services, adding that the strike is unlawful.
All pilots, including manager pilots, are members of CALPA. So, yes, indeed, large majority of those people who are flying those are managers, but we also have members of CALPA who are not managers who are also helping us and doing the patriotic thing of trying to help us evacuate a lot of the stranded passengers here.
How many people are stranded at JKIA?
It is difficult to tell because they keep coming, increasing and decreasing, but as at yesterday, we had 500 guests in various hotels. I estimate there's probably another 100 or so who are stuck at the airport. So if you look at the entire network, we have impacted about 12,000 passengers. So across the network, those ones who wanted to come, those ones who wanted to leave, and so on and so forth.
He said KQ expects more pilots to be returning to work as the company looks forward to increasing frequencies.
Today we have 17 flights operating. Of course, that is still suboptimal. We have a few pilots who have called in to operate the flights. And of course, there are pilots who never went on this unlawful strike. So the limited number of pilots who are operating those flights are proceeding. What we expect is, as I was just checking the status, more and more pilots are calling in to say that they want to operate. So we expect this trend to continue. And as we continue to get more pilots back on duty, then of course we continue to increase our frequencies.
On the issues the pilots have raised, Kilevoka says that the grievances have issues touching on the CBA and others outside of it, but which were never exhausted at the negotiating table to warrant a strike.
I think it's important for me to state the facts. The pilot union pilot association has raised several elements. They have raised several grievances, actually 4, in buckets of 4. Some of those elements relate to the CBA, so that is completely true. Some of them have absolutely nothing to do with the CBA. For example, their demand that I exit the organization has nothing to do with the CBA. So they raised grievances sometime this month. Initially, first of all, we have been having discussions around these elements, trying to get a solution and so on and so forth. But at some point, they disagreed. They were not happy with my negotiating team. So what did they do? They wrote a strike notice, 14-day strike notice. So I wrote back through the ministry and said, we have not exhausted the dispute resolution mechanism. So there was no point at that point to go on strike. Let's talk about it. And the ministry said, yes, that's true. They invited us to have a discussion around those elements.
In the meantime, passengers continue to demand for answers from KQ, with many expressing their frustration due to all the time as poor communication from the airline.
I've reached out to Kenya Airways via WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, email, and no response.
Kenya Airways offices are not even available to deal with passengers. None of the services respond to any kind of query. So all the different numbers and ways in which you communicate with KQ, and which they tell us as customers in their own press release to communicate, 0. All day yesterday, all day today, Facebook, all you get is the bot.
Now, former South Mugirango MP Omingo Magara says that for Kenyans to enjoy the benefits of the Political Parties Act, we must get out of the politics of tribalism. In an interview with SpiceFM, he said that tribalism is a cancer that continues to deny Kenyans the benefits that come with the act. He adds that the idea of having a supremo controlling the parties is an exercise that should be done away with, so that the political parties can not only look national but be national.
It can only be independent and there will be democracy integrity if we were faithful to the Political Parties Act of 2012, where political parties were trying to be detached from individuals. More often than not, our political space is occupied by political leaders who actually own the political parties. And indeed, we can't run away from it. Remember, if you mention a political party, you can actually trace its domicile and the roots where it comes from, and the big man ahead of it. So the motive of that political party, which was supposed to bring integrity, independence, and public audit on political parties, was to enable national coffers fund political parties, detach it to one-man show, and bring public accountability.
Now, President William Ruto is in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, for the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, that is COP27. Ruto is leading the Kenyan delegation to Egypt and will also be the lead of African continent heads of state in the summit, which brings together more than 130 heads of state from around the globe. Ruto will deliver 2 statements, one for Kenya and another for Africa, to over 40,000 delegates. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto, good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Still pretty heavy coming into the city centre, and it's coming off the Thika Superhighway. We're also looking at it coming off of Kiambu Road as well. It's busy coming out of Westlands. Quite some traffic that started very early today, and it looks like it's going to go past traffic hour today. Into the CBD, coming off Murang'a Road, and then also from Kamkunji and off Uhuru Highway, which essentially comes off Mombasa Road. Pretty heavy as well. We'll keep an eye on things through the hour. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Of the Situation Room this morning. Welcome to the show. If you're just joining us, we have been here since 6 a.m. and we're here until 10 a.m. We have a new guest in the studio. We'll still want to talk about the role of non-parliamentary political parties in the national discourse in the country. Before we welcome and introduce him, the day's proverb, City.
Yes. A donkey which goes to grow horns returns with the ears cut off.
A donkey which goes to grow horns returns with the ears cut off.
Yes.
And might we add, and no horns.
Kabisa. You know, there's this place where if you're a donkey and you want to grow horns, you go to. Unfortunately, when you get there, you will not find the horns. What you will find is that your anatomy has been depleted somewhat. And it's your ears that have been chopped off. And you'll come back with no horns and also less ears.
This proverb is basically like saying, do not be overambitious. Don't want change.
No. Well, you know the thing about proverbs and how it is, it always has a multiplicity of interpretations. What do you think?
I think because it is like a bit of far-fetched, because when a donkey never grows horns, so it's like a warning shot. When you go looking after something that you're not supposed to go looking for, then you might come back less of your physical anatomy.
But it's also it's like saying, do not explore, do not venture, don't be curious. Like, accept this is who you are, accept that is who you're meant to be. If you try and seek more from what you are meant to be, you may lose even what you have.
But then that kills ambition.
That's exactly what I'm saying. This proverb seems to be saying, don't be ambitious.
I think City should break it down better.
go ahead and be ambitious. Just understand
that you will lose your ears.
That the ambition you may actually end up achieving the complete opposite of what you sought. Instead of gaining, you may lose. You know, what this reminds me of is the political culture we have in this country. And you look at the number of people who vie for political seats. They all go there hoping that they'll get something grand, something they didn't have. Those who actually get, it's one. For every seat, there's only one person who ends up being the victor. And the other ones count the losses because you'll have spent money. I mean, many things that didn't need to go wrong will go wrong simply because of that pursuit that you had to begin with. Yes. Your house is sold. Your wife has left you. Your children don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's one of the things that the new breed of politicians that are coming up are trying to cure. Because if even in our proposals in Punguza Mizigo, we say that if you want to become rich, then go to the private sector, go to corporate. You can even pay yourself, do business. But if you don't have servant leadership coming into politics, then those are some of the things that come up. Yes.
Let me introduce the person who's talking. Erickson Odhiambo is the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance political party. This is the party that was behind the Punguza Mzigo Constitution Amendment Initiative, the popular initiative to Punguza Mzigo Constitution Amendment. Erickson, welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. So you've already started, you're saying, so there's a new crop of young political leaders who are emerging, and you're being reminded that you've got to go into politics with servant leadership as the way to go and not to make money.
Yes.
And you're buying into that?
Yes, I'm buying into that because I have lived in this country. I vied in the last election. And
where, for what seat?
I vied for MCA Harambee Ward. And the murkiness that I talk about in politics, I saw it firsthand. But it is not the scenario that you want to go into the future if you want to make this country a prosperous country. So if I can maybe just do a reference to the bill that we had drafted in reference to what we are talking about. So one of the proposals that we had was to strengthen devolution. And by strengthening devolution, we said that out of the 1,450 wards in the country, we should start by measuring development at that level. So we have been sending 416 people into parliament to spend a total of 31.8 billion every year, but we don't see the value of both legislation, representation, and oversight. In fact, we had
this is in the National Assembly.
The National Assembly. So we have 416 individuals, both elected and nominated. But sorry to say this, from what we view on television and following people who follow keenly, it has become some kind of a marketplace and a business place where some deals are made in the toilet and no actual value for the representation that we send them to do there and oversight is being seen. That's why we're proposing to cut the number of MPs from 416 to 147. On that note, be that as it may, we also roped it in with the strengthening Senate to have veto powers. Because if you remember, the VAT Act of 2013 was passed out of political expediency without considering the economic situation of Kenyans, the ordinary Kenyans out here. And Senate had no veto powers to say no because that is the structure that we have right now. And the revenue sharing bill number 7 of 2018, which as per the constitution was supposed to be passed on updated audited accounts, not the previous ones, but still political expediency came in and Senate could not do anything. So I think Parliament needs to be checked, one of our proposals, for it to be very efficient. And also, having 416 members who some never talk in the Hansard, it is there never talk for 5 years, I think it's a very big loss for the people of Kenya.
So you want to increase that? Well, you want to say let's focus our attention to the county assemblies.
Yes.
1,450 elected MCAs, almost a similar number nominated. So you have over 2,000 nominated MCAs. Have we felt the value of over 2,000 members of county assemblies across the country?
Yes. So
just if you ask us if you've felt the value of representation and legislation,
yes.
Have we felt the value of county assemblies?
I think that question is both a yes and a no, because also the type and character of a leader that the citizens elect as per Chapter 6 of the Constitution is an issue there. But when it comes to devolution in its core and it's how it was built to work as brick and mortar, we don't have enough money going down to the counties, and that's why also one of our proposals was that the Constitution is not hell-bent on saying only 15%. It's not capped on 15% only. The Constitution says that at least 15%. So we can even go up to 50% if we want to send this money to the counties for it to be functional. So, and then it also brings in the issue, what is national? Most of the money remains to the national. What is national? I think national is these Kenyans in all these wards, in all these counties and wards, having clean water, education, security, and also food security. That is, having as per Chapter 6 of the Constitution, they say that all services should be devolved to all the counties. So it should be felt by the normal mwananchi. Not a few, maybe these counties like Nairobi, which is a capital city. So I think if we gave devolution a chance and made it work by following the Constitution and making a few amendments here and there, I think we'd see the face of Kenya. But right now we're not seeing it because the focus is on, I'm sorry to say this, but the focus is on elected leaders, which should not be. But right now, 1.4 million people are facing drought.
Erickson, I hear you have gone straight up into talking about the Punguza Mzigo initiative, which flopped the county assemblies, despite the fact that you were saying it was seeking to entrench devolution and support the county assemblies to be better. But they rejected it at the county assemblies. Is the Third Way Alliance Party reviving the push to amend the Constitution?
So, with the party leader and the team behind us, we have had a lot of consultations with stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders are Kenyans, both elected and non-elected. And they still feel that what we had proposed was going to bring a lot of gain to the common person. So yes, we are in the process of kickstarting Punguza Mizigo Kenya back into the play.
Okay. Again?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think Kenyans are ready for this?
I would say Kenyans they were ready even for it when we did it previously, because remember, Kenyans did not reject the bill. Kenyans, as per Article 255, 256 and 257, we went to the people of Kenya and they gave us 1.4 million signatures. 1.2 were verified. Then the bill, as per the Constitution, the bill was presented to the county assembly. But unfortunately, as we were going around, people took party positions instead of looking at debating the merits and the demerits of the bill. If you look at how the bill was rejected, it was on a technicality, and sorry to say this, that is also one of the things why we should look at the kind of leaders we're electing. Because we went to one county assembly, and we walked into the county assembly, and a person rose to the floor and said, so I have a bill here, and calls a name of the colleague to come and second the bill. And the guy wakes up and says, I don't second that bill. And then that's how it was never debated in most of the county assemblies. Yes. So it is very, very sad that the leaders we have, and maybe we are electing, sometimes take positions not based on the people who actually elected them to the seat, but to their party positions. Like even my previous analyst here was here, Omingo Magara, talked about it. I was listening coming, it's sad, but I think for us to change this, we need to take the bull by the horns and just face the people of the Kenya.
Okay. So what will be the difference this time?
So this time, I think last time what we lacked was what actually people said we lacked, and we took it as feedback. We have to take feedback. Was they said we didn't work with elected leaders. So we're trying to talk sense.
What did they mean?
So we didn't gang up with other political parties.
Did you lobby?
Yes, we lobbied. Actually, we used to have elected leaders, both members of parliament and members of county assembly, in our offices every morning, but they didn't want to be seen by their political parties as being behind Punguza Mizigo.
But that is not you lobbying, that's them lobbying.
No, we actually lobbied. We actually lobbied in so many different ways. We actually brought them on board, and then, CT, in this country, we are used to a circus for politics. I mean, I'd really love politicians to sit on the table and talk about real issues that are affecting Kenyans. Okay? Instead of taking party positions because of political expediency, and at the end of the day, like, they took party positions, most of them took party positions because of the BBI. Rest in peace. So, but then...
But Erickson,
yeah.
We're talking about what we call the political space, huh?
Yes.
And about Kenya, and about politicians and the way they go about their business.
Mm-hmm.
But you are now beginning to sound as though this is something new. We know how politicians think. We know how they go about their business. So when I ask if you lobbied, I am simply asking the question, did you take into account how our politicians are going to respond to this? Or did you take what they told you when they came to your offices at face value?
So we actually took into account everything that they brought on board. But also, I think lobbying is a wide... It's a very... You've really taken it... Are you actually talking about us lobbying, like talking to them, or how they operate?
It isn't just talking to them. The idea behind lobbying is so that you get someone to buy into your idea and that they support it. And the way you understand the success of your lobbying is if they support the idea. Now, I say this because the one currency that politicians understand is one called self-interest. They understand it very, very well.
Yes.
So how were you lobbying if their self-interest wasn't catered for? Because the things that were proposed by the Punguza Mzigo initiative made a lot of sense in so many ways. But beyond sense, the lobbying would be, how would the politicians have listened to what you are saying and seen their interests served in it?
So, so this is what happened. So I'll tell you what happened on the ground. So, for instance, we have lobbied, we have talked to a county assembly today, and we are going to visit the county assembly tomorrow, and we are sure that it's being passed. Some of the county assemblies took a hard stand and said this is about, they were patriotic, this is about Kenya. So like Uasin Gishu, they passed the bill, they said no. But now, there was an underhand in this. And these are not just allegations I'm making. The outsiders actually told us there's money put on the table for us to reject this bill. And then there was the car grant money that they were given for them to reject Punguza Mizigo Kenya. So their interest was served by...
car grant came later. It was...
we were in the process of getting the 24 counties majority. Yes.
Car grant came around the time of the passing of the BBI. There was a hope for the BBI.
BBI and Punguza Mizigo were tied like this. So we went...
Well, when you say tied in a race, not tied together.
Yes, tied in a race.
Okay.
Tied in a race. Yeah, because by the time us, we were getting closer to going through all the county assemblies. BBI had kicked in and were having meetings in these places, hotels and everything. And thus we were going to the people directly. So most of the county assemblies, they actually called us and they called the party leader and told him, boss, tumekewa basha kwa meza. We were supporting you in the morning, but now we are being whipped.
Unless you have a counter offer.
Yes, unless you have a counter offer. as we are being whipped to reject this thing.
And that's what City was asking. Did you lobby?
So, I mean, so, you know.
Equals to.
Now, the other party had lobbied.
But, you know, the lobbying is very insincere because
this is politics we're speaking
Exactly,
of.
exactly. But if City, you see, this is a very important show because it's a show where a lot of intellect is oozed out of here.
Are you now lobbying?
No. I'm just saying because we are talking to we are talking to people who are listening. You know, Kenyans, my friends, my relatives, most Kenyans don't like reading bulky documents, but I can listen to people talk. So when we come to this show, we need to really educate Kenyans. What is the purpose of you? What is your civic duty in politics? You see, so civic duty in politics is not only going to vote in the morning and going to watch TV in the evening. You need to get involved instead of complaining on the fence. Okay? So when it comes to the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, I think even normal Kenyans need to have a feel of it. I am not a trained lawyer, but I think I know a little bit of the Constitution because I need to know the document that governs me. Does it favor me? Are there areas that we can change for us to be better?
You know, the reason why, when we had a referendum on this matter of the Constitution, it sailed through, and that is why we have we have a Constitution, is because it was sold, and whatever was being sold was bought, that this was going to change lives. It was going to be better than what people had. And in many ways, if you look at the actualization of it, one sees benefits, one sees the so-called political space open. There are many things that are happening that wouldn't have happened without the Constitution. And I'm talking about the many, many positive things. Okay? I am simply being realistic when I ask. Because if you know people expect you to give them money, what can you offer them that is better than money?
So, City, let me also just take you back on the Constitution, the promulgation 10 years ago, right now. The Constitution, as per what I have experienced in this country, has not been fully implemented. It's a piece of paper.
No, it hasn't.
It's a piece of paper, but you need to breathe life into it. So, let's go to the Constitution now, and let's go to a whole in this entire world that we live in. It is only Kenya that has a whole chapter dedicated to the type, character of a leader, of how a leader should conduct themselves.
And do you understand the thinking behind it and why the crafters of that Constitution focused on this thing?
Yes, because of the political, toxic political environment we are in.
What our lived experience with politicians and politics had been such that it was understood we need to put this in the Constitution. There's no talking about it, isn't it?
Yes.
Precisely.
But then, sorry, but the administrations that have been there since the promulgation of the Constitution have made it become, some of the sections of the Constitution are like flower girls in the Constitution. Because they are there cosmetic. They're there very cosmetic, but they're not implemented. So then, that's why we're saying, why don't we even strengthen some areas of our governance, like the Auditor General's office. We had proposed that we have a forensic department where if the Auditor General today gives a report and says money was lost in this county X, the DPP immediately moves in using the forensic report as evidence to start prosecuting, and the DCI starts investigation.
Why can't the Auditor General do that now?
Because they don't have a forensic
why can't
department.
they set up a forensic department?
So it needs
Are they barred by law from setting up a forensic
department? It needs
department?
to be entrenched in the Constitution.
No.
Because
Are they barred? Is there any part in the Office of Auditor General Act or the PFM Act
so the thing is
or
this,
the Constitution that says that the Auditor General cannot have a forensic audit?
So they are not bad. But you know how the status quo has been operating. If you don't have anything enforced by the law, then it will somehow...
It's an independent office, boss. The Office of the Auditor General is an independent, a constitutional independent office.
So Eric, let me pose a question to you.
And they have a mandate to conduct audits.
So let me pose a question.
Now, if they decide to do forensic audits, would they be going against their mandate? No, they wouldn't.
So they've done.
Why can't they do it?
So they've done them, and they've put them as public documents. But has the DPP taken it up to start investigations?
You see, that's another constitutional office and an independent office.
That's why we wanted to tie it up together, so that the forensic office is working together with the DCI and the DPP. So immediately this report is put out by the Auditor General, the person steps down from the public office and investigations start. So that was the essence of it all.
So why not just have
to
it
be
in
entrenched in law? So that's why we were proposing.
Must it be in the Constitution? Why can't it just be in the various pieces of legislation? The piece of legislation that establishes the Office of the Auditor General, the piece of legislation that establishes the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
As per our previous engagements, there was no political goodwill to bring that into play, because it was not favoring them at all.
Let's take a break. Erickson Odhiambo is the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance Party. Third Way Alliance are the people who are behind the push to amend the Constitution through the Punguza Mizigo initiative. Since 2010, there have been 3, let's call them serious attempts. There have been many attempts at amending the Constitution. Some are just bar talk, others are just threats. 3 have actually gone to seeking people's signatures.
Yeah.
One of them was around just 4 years into the Constitution, started by a CORD coalition then. It flopped because they presented, according to the IEBC, signatures of donkeys.
Without ears.
Without ears.
There you go. Oh, yes.
The second attempt was by the Third Way Alliance, the Punguza Mizigo. The third attempt was again CORD reimagined into BBI. It went all the way to the National Assembly. They have not performed well. Now, Third Way Alliance says they'd like to revisit this story. Are you ready for another conversation about amending the Constitution again? 0719-012-600. We'd also like to hear from you. Let's take this quick break. Olive Real Estate presents Naserian Ridge Phase 3, a gated community and infrastructural development located 4 kilometers from the SGR. Erickson, do you know a place called Nachu?
Nachu?
Yes.
I've heard the name, but I've never been there.
So, you see this road from, Ngong.
Yes.
You know Suswa.
Yes.
Now, between Ngong and Suswa, there's a road that they're constructing. Nice road. Lam. Barbara Lam. From Ngong heading towards Suswa, you will get to a place where you find an SGR station. The SGR passes that route as well. Mm-hmm. That place is called Nachu. So near that Nachu station, 500 meters from the Ngong Suswa Road, is where they are doing the Naserian Ridge Phase 3. They are providing freehold titles, beacons, close proximity to schools, electricity and water, and they are selling these pieces of land. Go for a site visit on the 19th of November.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Like to visit.
So just go to olivelimited.com, make an inquiry and reserve your slot, olivelimited.com, or you can call 0704 30 30 30. 0704
30 30 30.
Bus.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Sismuga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
The baridi ni degree ngapi ya?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The drizzle continues in Nairobi at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 17. We're looking at rain in Nakuru as well. We'll see highs of 24 and 23 will be the high in a rainy Nyeri at 18. It's 21 and partly sunny in Eldoret, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 30 in a wet Mombasa this morning. Follow suit in Malindi at 29 currently, highs of 30 and lows of 25. It's mostly cloudy at 26 in Kisumu, highs of 29 today, and we'll see highs of 26 in a mostly cloudy Kakamega at 25. Rain showers continue in Kampala, highs of 25 and lows of 17, and it's 30 and raining in Dar es Salaam with highs of 31. We'll see lows of 24. Johannesburg is mostly cloudy at 16, highs of 20 and lows of 14, and it's raining in Lagos. It'll go to highs of 32. 32 will also be the high in a mostly sunny Kinshasa currently at 24. Looking out into early evening Monday, it's 18 in Beijing. That'll be today's high. It'll come down to a low of 0. It's raining in Paris at 13. We'll see highs of 16 and highs of 15 in a cloudy London at 12. Coming closer and closer to Monday morning, New York is clear at 19. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 7. All right, still continues in most parts of the city, really heavy. Coming off the Thika Superhighway, at least a lot better now. We're seeing clear until that Pangani underpass. It's looking a tad better on Kiambu Road as well. Whatever is happening in Gigiri also looking a lot better now, and UN Avenue into Limuru Road is also much better at the moment. Coming off James Gishuru, some traffic, the remnants of it this morning we'll see for some time, and Uhuru Highway will be busy getting into the city, past Nyayo Stadium, out towards the CBD and then Westlands. So we'll keep an eye on things through the morning. Talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Having this conversation with you. 0719-012-600. The Third Way Alliance says they want to launch a move to come to you and seek your support in a popular initiative to amend the Constitution. The question to you is, are you ready for another conversation about amending the Constitution at this time? Are you ready for another conversation about amending the Constitution at this time? Our guest is the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance, Erickson Odhiambo. He's here with us in the studio. They had the Punguza Mizigo initiative, which passed the signature stage, went to the county assemblies, and it flopped at the county assemblies. Now they want to revive it again. Erickson, you're saying very many things about your experience that time. One, you got some sufficient support from members of the public, where you got 1,200 verified signatures. Right?
1.2 million.
1.2 million verified signatures.
Yes.
When it went to the county assemblies, the MCAs, like you say, many of them moved the politics of the day and did not support your move. Do you think if the members of parliament felt that there was sufficient support of your initiative from the people that they represented, they would have taken the move that they took?
So,
what do you think was lacking? Was it lack of sufficient support from the citizens or support from the political leaders?
It was all political, and it's just purely political bad manners. Because if 1.2, you only 416 individuals who have been elected by more than 19 million in the last election. So who are the supremo? Even as Article 1 of the Constitution says, the Kenyan people are the final, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is pure political bad manners. But also, we also, right now, we're going to find mechanisms of urging the people actually to bring their leaders to account. Because if we introduce such a bill and the normal mwananchi, like just, let me just juxtapose something. The cost of running parliament right now is 36.8 billion. We are 400% overrepresented for a population of around 50 million. juxtaposed to other democracies that are way ahead of Kenya in terms of development, because we're a developing world. You go to India, for a population of 1.3 billion people, they have 800 representatives only. That means one representative represents 1.6 million people. Go to the superpower of the world, the United States of America. For a population of 350 million people, they have only 535 representatives. China, which lends us money, I saw we're talking about in the dailies about the contracts, whether they were the real contracts or not, lends us Kenya money, has, for a population of 1.2 billion people, they have only 1,200 elected officials. So, ask yourself, even if you go to Kenyans, go to Kenyans on the ground and ask them, with a country that is facing all these problems that can get money from the wage bill is ballooning. If this money can be saved, we were proposing to cut down the budget from 36.8 billion to 5 billion a year only for running government.
By reducing the number of MPs?
Reducing the number of MPs, even capping their salaries and allowances. Then this money can go and serve Kenyans who actually need it. Because what is the relevance of one person? I'm not saying it's not their right. It's entrenched in the constitution. But now let's go to the logic. So you have a 20 million house grant. You are pushing for 250,000 also rent. Apart from that, they are pushing for that. You have a car running allowance. You have a salary. You still have staff. You're one person. But the people you're representing, the people you're representing are wallowing in poverty and hunger.
You see now those things that you're doing. What you're doing now is civic education. How about Third Way Alliance goes around the country for the next 5 years actually conducting civic education and doing what you've just done, juxtaposing and giving practical examples and saying this is what it's costing you. So that then, by the time you come and say, this is a solution to it, this is how we can come up with a solution, people already have an idea. Sounds like you're starting by saying, let's amend the constitution, and then coming to use that to justify why you need to amend the constitution.
So, Latif, remember something.
And mind you, the people who are saying, let's amend the constitution, in those 3 attempts, Raila is responsible for 2, Ekuru Court is responsible for 1. Both of them are at the core of the 2010 constitution. So the people who gave us this constitution are coming to tell us, let's amend the constitution because it's not working.
So first of all, they didn't give you the constitution. They were framers. They were just taking ideas around the country. And they had, writing of a constitution. I'm not a constitution builder. My party leader is. I've learned some stuff from him. So writing a constitution is actually taking ideas. Some even are a compromise. But because they represent maybe a minority in the country, you need to include them in the constitution. Moving to what you're saying, if you have been following Third Way keenly for the since the 2017 election, not even now, we have been consistent in civic education. There's a time we used to give press statements every week on the current state of the economy, the current state of politics in the country. And we were one of the... before that, I'd seen that when I was in school, we were the only party who came up and appointed a shadow cabinet. But they were locked out of even accessing documents that could bring these people into account, the cabinet secretaries and everybody. So we have been doing this civic education continuously in different platforms.
Has it been enough?
Even if it hasn't been enough, then I think we can revamp it. Okay. But we have been doing it.
Do you have a feel? Because also, they say once you're getting into something, there's the feeling or the understanding that you have. Do you think that the Kenyan public is adequately or sufficiently versed, has an understanding, innate or otherwise, about these things that you speak of? That the wage bill in Kenya is unbelievably high, that the representation is really, really legislatively heavy. Do you think that the majority of Kenyans get it? Because truth be told, if they do not get it, all these things that you speak of then would be very difficult to achieve.
That's a very important question. And I'll just break it down in a very, very layman's language. If the Kenyan population understand hunger, if the Kenyan population understand the pain of the broken down health system. If the Kenyan population understand the pain of not having a functional security apparatus, like our brothers and sisters who are dying in the Northern Corridor, if they understand that, then everything is simplified by Third Way Alliance. That's the way we have broke it down. We are going to the basics. We are not even asking for more than that. I think the only jargon in the bill is things constitutional, but we've also broken it down. We had even done it in a Swahili version so that Kenyans can go through it. And something else I wanted to say about the same thing that we are speaking about. So we had proposed in the bill that any person who's mentioned in other democracies like the UK, there's a very silent principle in their constitution called resignation. If you're adversely mentioned to have been involved in anything corruption, you resign. If you have a very good moral standing ground, you resign. Here it's not happening. So we had proposed, you step down, let the investigating agencies get in, do their job within 30 days, close this thing. If you are found to be culpable, okay, no presidential pardon, you go inside.
But Erickson, surely.
I just want to prove my point, CT. One second.
Go ahead.
So this is one of the points that was really fought by the political elite. Then it tells you that people are doing things that they're not supposed to be doing in public offices. Let's go back to we keep juxtaposing Kenya to the Asian tigers and economies that we were at par with in the 60s, like Singapore, Malaysia. But we can't get there. Lee Kuan Yew, who was the PM for Singapore, you know the history, you know what he did. Now the country, even a beggar is a millionaire. So there's no beggar in that country. But if we can't take the bull by the horns, us as the people, and we keep giving a few individuals the space to plunder this country, then woe unto our generations and the generations that come after us.
You know, what you say makes sense. What you say is pleasant to the ears, but what you say is ineffective because the how-to isn't there. You see, you are expecting a situation where because certain words are uttered, people have been told a few things, you put it in the constitution that it will happen. In Kenya, with the political leadership, resign. Our whole structure. Should more effort not be put into getting people to understand how they can pressurize leaders to actually resign?
And to understand what lobbying really means.
So that something happens, you know your people are going to be on your case. You know there will be no breathing space.
Yes.
But here the space is the leaders should have a prick of their conscience so that morally what?
No, so I understand what
it's the people.
Yes. The people.
If the people have no issue with it, then why do you have an issue with it?
Yes.
Hold on, let's go to the phone line. Zachary is on the line. Zachary, good morning.
Good morning, people.
How are you?
I'm fine. I decided to become like the Pope, giving my view on, after a very long time.
Doing homilies.
That now shall guide you, that shall guide the thinking of the other.
Where are you?
I'm in Gatoto South still.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me give my home there.
Okay.
The guy is saying very good, yeah? But now the approach is, I think it is the one that brings the problems because he talks to the honchos in Nairobi, the guys who drive the top of the Range Rovers and the right, yeah? Those guys, if they are offended by a certain point, they are going to give those guys money, yeah? And they are going to beat down a very, 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 very noble idea that way around has always come up with. Watch those guys that way around. 3 months they have questioned very well and come and ask us here on the ground. You work so hard here.
Zachary.
You are overrepresented. CG from the MCA all the way up to now the governor. But you work hard, yet you look at your situation,
Zachary.
it's like you are becoming more polarized.
Zachary, you use the other phone.
So they actually
Zachary?
start building us what you are.
Call us with the other phone. You know, he has like 17 phones. So call from the other phone. This one is not working. This one is not good at all. It's bad line. But you were about to respond to what he had said earlier.
Or to what City had said. Yeah. So, I mean, then that responsibility then befalls, apart from the 50 million Kenyans who live in this country, the 20 million plus who are actually eligible voters to actually now, come to the, let me tell you something.
You have to convince the 20 million. I think that's a point that was being made. Because the 20 million who are voters are the ones who look they're the ones who look at the candidates.
20 million, 8 million
and they
didn't
select.
vote.
Exactly.
So that's the problem.
8 million don't select.
Yes.
15 million participate.
Yeah.
And the 15 million, how are they vetting the candidates? Those are the same ones that you'd like to participate in this referendum that you want to push. So how about you start by preaching to them and getting them on board?
I think
I take you back to the point of the last time you attempted it, you failed.
No.
The people through their representatives rejected
Be fair to third
your
way.
bill.
Be fair to third way. We did fail.
Actually, it isn't a question of being fair or not. We are just talking about the outcome. Okay.
So it was not a failure.
Yes.
See, a failure.
The people rejected your bill.
The people didn't reject.
Through the representatives.
But the representatives did not equal.
Legally constituted representatives of the people
said no.
Rejected your bill.
Yes.
So the last time
on
you
what
tried,
grounds? See, when I started, I said, if they had debated the merits and the demerits of the bill, we would have said it's a failure. Get me very right. I mean, even KCSE graduates in this country can actually really go into documents and analyze. These are elected officials who decided to be politically correct by rejecting the bill on technicality.
Erickson, do you see what you're doing?
Yes.
You're looking for excuses.
No, it's not an excuse. I can't say it's a failure because we worked for this document, yeah?
We had your party leader here. If you hear what we've said about what you people were proposing, it's positive, it's not negative.
Yeah.
There's a certain truth acceptance and a certain quotient, certain level that is very crucial to any political process. Now, you didn't succeed. So what does that equal to? You wanted them to pass it, they didn't. What does that tell you?
But the
you
grounds...
forget the reasons and the grounds. Those are the excuses I'm talking about. I am simply saying this. When you know you have a good product and it isn't being accepted, go back to the books and say, fine, that's what we did the last time. How do we now do it so that this time around? That's why I asked you the question, what do you give these money-loving politicians that is worth more than the money that they want? Because they will want money. And that route, if you follow, you will have achieved nothing.
Before you respond, let's hear from Simon. Simon, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
I wanted to comment on one thing. There's an area he mentioned which I work on, which is about the reports that come from the Auditor General's office that go to public accounts on what money has been embezzled, lost, or stuff like that.
Yep.
For the government of Kenya to really want to sort that does not require the bill or law changed. It only requires them to empower the records department and the process people in the ministries to do something called an audit trail. Any money lost in government requires no OAG right now as we speak. There was a case of Tokyo. I am aware they sent people to go follow the money trail because I'm in records management. And all it requires, if you ever lose money, is take the records, follow the trail of the records, you know where that money got lost, and ODP So I thought I should correct that part from my brother there. So that he knows we don't need to have very many institutions set up for things that can actually be done by the institutions already there. Because by the time Madam OAG is saying we have lost 300 million, some documents are missing.
Yeah.
So what we require to ask ourselves is, instead of that forensic department, how powerful can we make our records management department so that they are able to be accountable? That's the part I thought, let me correct because I'm in that area, so that even as they might in future do punguza mzigo, we don't require a forensic unit in Kenya. We require empowered records managers such that today, if there is a fraud in an institution, you ask for the documentation, who signed, who missed what, prosecute those ones. And God bless you guys.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
So, first I respond to Simon.
Yes, yes.
So, Simon is very correct. He's very correct. But he's talking as a civil servant. Empowering the records management, we went through that. We went through that. But there was no goodwill from the ministries that have this records management. The documents, one of the feedback we got from very, very senior procurement official in Treasury told us that these documents, they normally get an invisible drawer or cabinet, and you cannot trust them. So that's why, if you understand me, these are the records.
What would the Constitution do?
So, forensic audit, even if one or two documents are missing, the trail will not hit a dead end. They will find a disparity in whichever money that was lost. So I agree, we can relook the record, strengthening that, but that's why we found a cure in having a forensic audit, because auditors don't, they as much as they look at the records, but they also have their logical way of working to find out money was lost, documents are missing, but you cannot account for this money. Where is it?
Sounds the same thing to me. Anyway, to what City was saying earlier.
So I think as we go back to revamping the document and speaking to the people, I think we'll find a pathway to try and bring some sense to the elected officials, because as far as I see this and I'm concerned, I think that the only the only hurdle that we have, the people of Kenya are very optimistic. But yes, City, we will see how to find a way to bring the politicians on board so that the process doesn't flop like last time.
Politicians are often a difficult nut to crack. The mwananchi, again, if they see the benefit in the empowerment we are speaking of, word often used, perhaps misused, perhaps a tired word now, in the absence of being held to account, political leaders will never do the right thing. May not, will never. I'm underlining it in red and then circle it in green. Because unless it is something they see as being in their interest, not the public good.
Yes.
When people know that the decision being made is not in their interest and being made, not just, it's in the Constitution, not just being aware, but acknowledging and knowing that there's a step they can take. That is the one guarantee we have. People are wonderful before they get elected. They even keep their word. They get elected, they get to parliament, God alone knows what happens to them. Because they become the complete opposite of what they said they were going to do, we hoped they would be. So, to help them.
City, on that point, I think also as normal Kenyans, we have slept on our job. You know why? Because there's a section of recalling an MP or an MCA. I know it's a process, but if Kenyans who are the ones feeling the pain, they are the ones who know the pain points, actually queued I queued. I voted. I voted for myself also. I didn't get enough votes. So, if I queued and voted for someone else, and they're not responsible enough to bring development, oversight, legislate on behalf of the people that they're representing, then it's upon us. The way we woke up in the morning
to hold them accountable,
to go vote, to recall them.
Yeah.
So I think also Kenyans, as part of civic education, also Kenyans need to know what is entrenched in the law to favor them against and to also cover them against all these politicians.
The duties and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Erickson, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll be calling you again and again as you progress now with this fresh bid of Punguza Mzigo Kenya. Erickson Odhiambo is the Secretary General of the Third Way Alliance Party. He's been here telling us about the Punguza Mzigo initiative and what they want to do next. Remember, if you're looking for the best tech talent, there's only one place to go to, and that is theroom.com. You get the best, most qualified, most vetted talent. Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Join us again tomorrow morning. Have a lovely day. It's 10 a.m.